been trying to say, words don't come straight from.
Welcome back, everybody, to CCL. My name's Infernosis, joined here by Binks, and we've got ourselves two more teams. A team that I had the fortunate, happenstance to cast just last Friday, the Shinigami side, facing off against a new face for me at the least, Agony Esports.
Yeah, unlike you, I have not gotten to see either of these two teams. I was able to go back and watch the VOD from Shinigami, and that one did go pretty far, didn't it?
Oh my goodness. Not only did it go very far, but we had the most technical problems you could possibly imagine. Map of Border, where we had 6 different rehosts necessitized because, well, the game doesn't like to work on some of those newer maps here in the map pool. But I guess we'll talk about those maps when they come up. But I want to talk first, actually, about the players themselves and actually see who we're going to be talking about. I obviously got to see that Shinigami side, so I'll speak about them for a minute. Kenji Maestor, Cam Moore, Raymond, Batty, and Fate. And then Taro, TS Vok, Show, GP2, and Phils for the Agony side. Quite a interesting name selection for Agony, but it's the same exact roster we saw just last week on Friday for the Shinigami side.
I was actually a really big fan of the way Shinigami was able to play the previous week. They were a little bit calm with their aggression on Villa. I think that is one of the maps that we saw them on first. They did a really good job of going for a first initial clear, but as soon as it came to a late round execute, we started to see that they started to fluster a little bit and just lose sight of the overall objective.
It did feel like they lost control of the situation in quite a few of those places, taking a very nice try there on the map of Border, and they believe it is a newer map. There was definitely some difficulties in that map pool and ending things off on Clubhouse, unfortunately not taking the W, and it had to go to Max OT. So, I mean, it was a battle of attrition for them, but we've proven that Shinigami can last to that point in time, so maybe they can try to do the same thing here or try to finish us off in a 2-0 fashion, but the Agony Esports side will definitely not roll over. We'll have to see how they last, but we'll actually have to talk about what maps we're heading to at this point, and from my recollection, it's Clubhouse, Villa, and Oregon, so despite the expanded map pool of having 3 additional maps, very new maps, into the size and a larger band face, we're still going to the same old tried and true amateur seed maps.
I don't think that's too much of a surprise. These teams are really comfortable on these maps, and especially with the map pool only just now being expanded, you don't really expect too many teams to say, hey, I'm going to make that my map pick. It doesn't seem too comfortable unless they're really trying to change things up, which is what you saw last week with the Border pick. I think that actually, did that come from the side of Shinigami, or?
I believe it actually was Shinigami's pick. I may be incorrect about that one, I'll be honest, but actually, if I remember correctly, no, I think it was the other team. I think Shinigami had first pick, then it was the second pick to the opposing side, and then I think it was the left upright would go to Clubhouse and lost it. The comeback was, I think, what it came down to, so I think that's what it is. But Border was a terrible map for both sides. Let's be brutally honest here. It was not its. Both sides didn't look comfortable on it. It was shocking to see it even go down, and to make matters worse, Binks, the rehosting problems caused all of the momentum to fall apart. That can't happen here. I think that's for side of Shinigami. We saw them play really well and collected in sprees of times where they could keep that momentum. That was what kind of caused their downfall, I think, in those last 2 maps.
Definitely have a point, and we have talked a lot about Shinigami now, but I'm really interested to see on the side of Agony. We actually don't know how they did in the first week, but we have a lovely graphic showing off the standings from 1 week of play, so we can see how everyone is looking. So from Group A, Mystic taking the lead, followed by the other lead in Group B, Neuters. In Group C, Shift North. So if we look at the division we have right now, we have Shinigami and Agony. So they're both on the lower end. They're trying to catch up to Shift, but it's really a fight. With the first week already gone, these teams want to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, and Agony's struggling to do so, down at 0 points. Shinigami has collected 1 and maybe looking to spread that lead a little bit further, separate the distance from the Agony side, but they'll have to cut down Acme and Shift at the same time when it comes down to it to survive these standings and survive these group stages. I'm fairly excited to jump on into this map pool first and foremost. Clubhouse is a map that has had a lot of weird things with it in recent times here, Binks. Obviously, with the fact that Maverick is so must pick on this map in so many ways, even more than Habana is after her kind of slight rework she had with her ex-Cairo Skyro's pellets, it makes it impossible to defend the CCTV and cash room. It makes it more than likely not going to the attacking side, and you don't even truly need that garage and rafters control. And even if you do decide to peruse that way, you can send 3 full players to push it, because you no longer have to worry about biding your time on that CCTV hardwall, because you can just Maverick chick it out in about 30 seconds and then transition elsewhere as the round goes on.
Yeah, I've also found it really fascinating that because CC is not the site we see, but we know teams are still comfortable trying to defend it, it's Bedroom that's taken the forefront as either a secondary or even some teams taking it as their primary bomb site, and the extension over to the cache CC area where they can still use their map knowledge of the other side of so construction, and they can hold it and then have the ability to rotate back. And it's a lot of attacking teams that have a little bit of trouble cutting off construction before the defenders are able to rotate through. And for a site like Bedroom with that extension, I feel like construction is seeing a lot more play, and it's seeing a lot more necessity within each defending round.
One of the big things we'll have to talk about will just be that veto phase. And I think Maverick is kind of a must ban because of the fact that Maverick is a must pick. A lot of teams, while you mentioned Master Bedroom and Gym is a solid objective, and I would argue that even if we see Maverick be banned, I would prefer that objective over CCTV, just because it's gotten so much easier all around for the attacking team to take it, because that hard wall is connected to the outside towards dog kennels. I still think you have to ban Mav, and I still think, despite the Maverick ban, we may actually see Thatcher be left up. That was a thing that we saw last week. I've seen it a lot of times on Clubhouse. He's not always a ban. He should be, because Thatcher is broken and the EMPs are ridiculously strong, but it's not a big deal. Take out Thatcher, take out Maverick, and you're good to defend that objective for at least a semblance of time. They'll still get through it. You can bandit trick as long as you want, but we saw that last week with Cam Moore. They could not get it done. One of those rounds, great clip there by Sticula that we got out there. I'll make sure to check the Twitter to find it. It was hilarious. But when it comes to the basement site, typically you're thinking of Habanas. You're talking about trying to deny that. And we saw the side of Shinigami do a pretty darn good job of using those impact nades to great expenditure. They would dump out those X-Kairos pellets, and one of those rounds, they completely denied that hatch from being opened up, and that forced the opposing side to actually have to funnel around towards all of the other directions you can enter into the basement for, and those are weak sides. They couldn't get a single hatch open because they lost their their thermite very early in that round as well after a spawn peak. It's just a lot of problems that you have to overcome, and it's a big hill to climb, and it all starts in the veto phase.
Our first ban already coming out here on Clubhouse. Agony is going to be banning at the Thatcher. So you got one of the bans right, but it does prove, you always have to expect Thatcher to be gone, but it all comes down to if it's going to be Habana or Maverick on the side of Shinigami, and they'll opt for the Habana. So that's going to make the defending side of Agony, as Scott just mentioned, extremely difficult to hold. And all of these hard walls that you expect to hold strong, if it's an external wall, don't expect for it to stay up for long.
Yeah, Maverick tricking a definite possibility. Shinigami will use their second and last ban to take out Valkyrie. No gathering of intel, at least in the easiest aspects. You can still use a Mozzie Pass to steal away some of those high-key potential utilities on the attacking side as they try to facilitate an easier push inside of the map. But the last ban, no shocker whatsoever either. Very standard map ban. You would see this basically throughout the last 6 months consistently. It's only been recent times at which Maverick has essentially been considered the more specific and more prioritized ban over Habana. But I expect with Shinigami on the attack first, we're probably not going to head to that CCTV and cash room objective, and that does look like Agony is going for it. They're going to head down to the church and arsenal room side. Maverick can still have a lot of control here, typically comboed in with Habana and Thermite. With no Habana, you switch that out for the Mav instead, but Mav's not that good at taking control and clearing that kitchen hatch. It's a little bit too dangerous for them to lie low and attempt to blow towards out the hard reinforcement. So instead, go over to Moto Hatch, clear that out instead, maybe even go over and use Mav to blow torch down the wall leading over towards Sturton Tunnel, because typically that's your Thermite's job, but they're going to need both of their exothermic charges to guarantee any success on that kitchen hatch.
I've always wondered, is it worth it just to take a can opener, take that secondary charge instead of going for the Thermite? Or even go for, I think the ace is a really good pick, because you can throw one ace charge onto any hatch, and then because of the health point system, you go and you do the rest with Maverick. I feel like that's a dynamic that isn't used nearly enough within a competitive scene, because I know it takes a lot more time. It's not one operator getting the job done. But if you look at what both of them can bring to the table, to some degree, it feels like it's more than Thermite and Maverick.
It's the secondary utility that Maverick brings to the table. We're in a nade meta right now. Mav has nades as well as a really solid AR in their hands. And you don't necessarily need the Mav to be as forefront and personal as maybe Ace does, because Mav can just kind of wait behind their teammates, which means that they can be more relegated to drone duty, and that should be their job at that point, to allow the true entries to step up and do their job. And with the fact that Selma's a little bit slower, that does create a problem, but I agree. I like Selmas on hatches. Using Selmas to clear kitchen hatch is not a bad play, but it does create a lot of problems. I am amazed at what we just saw happen to go down inside CCTV. Cam gets a nice shot over to Vok, but Vok actually finds the trade in the exact same shots. They're twinning it already in the deaths. It's 4v4 already.
I'm not too big of a fan of the clear. I know that that's the entire clear already done. We don't have any other roamers, if I am correct. So a really strong clear from Shinigami within the first minute. They now have the ability to go for any vertical control. But if you look on the defending end, they've already used one of their C4s. The only one they have left is from GP2, who's playing inside a church. It doesn't look like they're going for that denial aspect. As far as going for hatch, the only one that can get it done because of that Kaid on the board, unless they have a really well-positioned nade, it is looking like it's either going to have to be a church push from blue, or it's going to be a really big cluster. The moment they see that Maverick torch on that church hatch, or sorry, not on church, on that Arsenal hatch, that C4 is going to be coming right on up, and Fate is going to most likely have an unexpected explosion as their fate.
I really like the idea of taking church wall. I mentioned this last week with Sticula. I love pushing in through church, and one thing we noticed from Shinigami on the defense on Clubhouse was they did like to leave that northernmost triple wall of the triple wall open and putting a shield in front of it. So expect us to see that there. Notice the quick drop down Moto. With the fact that they've managed to clear at least one hatch, they've gained a leverage position to work from, but they still have to actually clear out all the players lying in wait. It does not look like Kool-Aid has been opened, only the floorboards being cleared, allowing a sight line for the side of Agony, and those prone positions are quite dangerous. Exothermic charge placed in the southernmost triple wall of Church, and now Atero's had to move away from there. Mossberg in hand. J-Tree finds the next level of impact and allows for Show to clean up with the Alda as well. Just Battle and TGing left standing. Does not seem like a great spot to work from. Nice shots there by your Zofia, but unfortunately does not survive as GP2 steps up to save J-Tree. Leaves just Battle left standing. They'll cut down one. Tries to find the second. Show will be felled in the process. 4 seconds left. Battle does not like the spot they were trying to plant towards. Instead, feels like they need to dedicate to the kill, and there's just not enough time. The Kaid surviving, and Agony would find the first round win.
I was a really huge fan of the initial approach there from Shinigami, but the way it fell short, and I think it's something we saw similarly in their previous match last week, is once they actually went for that execute, there were still too many players on the side of Agony that were in such comfortable positions. We saw that Meister spray out from the Alda, and I believe they were still on the Arsenal side, so being able to spray through those walls, find that headshot, it makes such a huge impact on the round. The information was there. We saw there wasn't too much of a clear. So when you have defenders that are able to sit so comfortably, it makes Shinigami's job, especially for a church push, where I'm a huge fan of it. You mentioned that church wall where they got the southern wall. You have the ability to push in. You have some sort of covered. But with all the holes, that double door actually opens up so much towards Arsenal.
One of the things you do on the attack is you open it more than just one way onto a site. Even if you're never going to use it, now the defense has to constantly have that on their mind. Well, they opened up kitchen hatch. Are they going to go from there? We have to keep watching it. Well, we know that dirt has been opened up as well. Are they going to push down tons? Do we have to watch that angle? Do we need someone behind short box? Where do we apply pressure? Church has now been open. Main stairs hall is still available. Moto hatch is gone. There's obviously the still same route from Secret. We've moved our player away from maintenance. What can you do? And that's one of the things that Shinigami did not do a good job of in that round. Agony knew there was really only one direction they were pushing from. There was no pressure applied down sewer. There was no pressure or oil, whatever you want to call it. There was no pressure applied in maintenance, down Secret, no matter what you want to do. It was all from one direction. A very one-dimensional approach, and Shinigami falls short because it's just an easy cleanup for the side of Agony to gun them down as they step into the site.
Looking more towards the CC side, we're seeing CC opted as the secondary rather than bedroom, and Maverick on the side of Shinigami. Fate making really quick work of the wall, but they only have 2 canisters left. So it doesn't look like the most efficient burn, but they are definitely getting that wall open. Meanwhile, it is going to be a split push from the side of Shinigami as Cam is opting to be the one to clear in through bedroom. This is really important that you also have to watch for any sort of roamers, as Show is going to use the C4, rotating out. That's 3 players now that have turned their attention towards the bedroom side, as well as the Jaeger just waiting down on the side of Bar, now finally getting droned out. So that is a big scare on the side of Shinigami. They'll be forced to rotate back.
Fate TKs. Where was the dead body?
Where?
I don't know if the
Logi.
Where's
Logi.
Battle Dead? Logi. So he dropped down Logi and Fate sprays through the wall and connects. That has got to be the most unfortunate TK I have ever had the pleasure of witnessing. And I almost want to say displeasure of witnessing, because now Shinigami have crippled themselves so effectively early. They needed the Selmas to be able to get through that construction hardwall, which is obviously the expected approach for them, as they've gone through such a methodical and meticulous approach towards the side of West, and yet they have only managed to have L's up until this point. Thankfully, Kenji Maestor does find impact, but it's only against GP2, and those Kaid Electroclaws have already been placed effectively, meaning that they were just a gun-up individual. They'll find another level. Kenji with a second now. They've started to work down from supply. They take Vok off the board. Now the blowtorch, you were talking about, they're running out, and that could be a problem here. It gets extremely close, but it does not make it. Oh, no.
They had the utility, but it just was not enough. They're going to be forced in through a funnel. This construction doorway could be the end, but Fate with a beautiful shot through the bottom. Meanwhile, Ting is going to be able to find their way into sight. Sophia will be downed. It's Tree who's been not droned out or cleared out on the side of Rafters, leaving Cam to try to find this angle. He'll be let up, and Fate to find the final blow. And somehow Shinigami pull it out, and they are able to take CC.
Wow. I mean, that is a difficult objective to push onto. And they leveraged control over that hardwall on CCTV, constantly letting Agony be aware that there's definitely a player who can come from this way. They're not there, but they could definitely be there. Any moment now, they'll work their way over there. I swear that we're going to push that way. And no, Shinigami did a great job of baiting out their players in construction. They did not care if they lost one. Now, they lost the one not off of a kill from Agony, but from a TK, so Fate basically carried that round in more ways than one. He almost carried it straight into a loss, but Shinigami hold on strong. They take that round, and it's going to be an interesting factoid now as Agony choose not to go back to that objective. They will opt for the CCTV, to not go to CCTV. They'll have to go for that CCTV extension, though, towards Cash. They'll apply control still on the second floor, but the problem lies in for Shinigami now. We know that they can breach down that CCTV hardwall that GP2 is looking at just right now. Thank you, GP2, for showing that. But the problem is they don't do it very efficiently. Now, do they here, Vinks? We saw Fates do much better guns up, not only to the opposition, but to their teammates, than they do utilizing it more efficiently, that blowtorch in the pocket.
We can't forget that a while ago, Maverick only had 4 canisters of his blowtorch. He went all the way up to 5. So for some Maverick players, that means you can either get 2 hatches easily. You were able to get 2 with the 4. But especially for walls, you can go for a little trick. And I don't know what type of trick we actually saw on the CC wall. If it was more of a Maverick does it all on his own, or
wall, and they were doing it from the top. They were doing the top trick instead of
okay. I just wanted to make sure, just because that's where it comes together. So we see this on Jacuzzi wall. It does seem like there is a more efficient way, and it gets a little bit tricky with Maverick. If you mess it up one moment, and a good strategy that we see is that teams will start Swiss cheesing the wall, which means you shoot right through with a shotgun, making a whole bunch of holes, and it makes it a lot harder for the Maverick to trace on through. But so far, Fate has done a sufficient job of getting Jacuzzi wall open, and if they do opt to rotate to the other side, that could make a difference.
I love the Swiss cheese strategy because it forces the side of Shinigami, or any attacking team surely, to use one of those Zofia impacts to kind of clear out that debris to make it easier, especially if their Maverick doesn't feel very confident in still doing it with the Swiss cheese up. But obviously, with Jacuzzi already opened, it's kind of easy cleanings from there, as you can just kind of throw a nade in from up over the top, and we see Kenji do a really good job of actually finding that. They're going to do it through the window on the outside highway, setting themselves up for an easy approach as they can take control over Bathroom. They'll send a secondary nade. That's just really to relegate space, and Sho tries to go for the dive out. Not sure why. You would manage to find Cam. You evened the odds at 4v4. Now you've completely opened the round wide open for the Shinigami assault. Kenji swings through window of construction. They find their second kill already on top of that. Sorry, third, might I add. As the second one was that frag we just saw on highway in the run out. J3 does finally shut Kenji down, but T Jing, unfortunately, still alive, managing to get the retrade instead. It's a 2-on-1. Shinigami have bled 3 players, but with only Vok left standing, it's easy pickings for the remaining 2, and they only need 1 to do it. T Jing finds the final blow.
Same thing with Shinigami. They did a great job of clearing out through sight. I'm a little bit worried about how they were actually able to throw that nade all the way into the bathroom. You'd expect for there to be a lot
Highway
more
window.
Jaeger ADS coverage.
Yeah,
like
it
from
doesn't
the
make much
window.
sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's not proper utility usage. We did not see Agony set up the objective. Instead, they focused too much on setting up the walls that were never utilized by them, let alone by the attack. Because that's one of the problems when you set up defensively, is that you can, unfortunately so, have the attack use it against you. They didn't, because you just throw a nade and the job's done. Nobody dumped flashes. Nobody burned the ADSs, and Agony left a gaping hole that Shinigami just used to brutalize them in that round.
What it could be, I don't know. I think I saw Cam switch to the Twitch really early on in the round. So perhaps I will give them the benefit of the doubt that we completely just missed it, and that Cam was able to shoot out all those ADSs, which brings a whole different problem of how you're letting a Twitch drone into your sights and not noticing that it's zapping all of your ADSs. But I do like that they're switching to the Wamai pick, as well as just an overall switch on the side of Agony, aimed more towards, it seems like, a time hold, which is really what worked well for them last time we saw them go for this Arsenal hold, because this is the first site that they were able to hold. On the side of Shinigami... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to point something out as we see the picks. Cam is playing Fuse. And the reason why they're doing that is because they want to place the cluster charges on Kitchen Hatch on the floor in Kitchen to create space so that Battle can place the exothermic charges down, because that's where Shinigami fell apart in round 1, because they weren't able to get Kitchen Hatch, which is a major leveraging point that all attacking teams really need. And that's why Cam is now working in from Kitchen Entrance to work alongside their exothermic charge wielding Battle to clear them out from below so they can't go for the impact trick, and Terra's going to die here. Yeah. Easy cleanup.
Oh my goodness. Did the Maestros take damage from the exothermic charge too?
No, that was the last round of the cluster charge. That is a genius play by Shinigami, and Agony fell straight into their hands. There's just nothing more to say about that.
Yeah, beautiful display of the Fuse, and it also fits brilliantly into the LMG meta that we've seen so clearly pronounced, where you're just able to keep spraying and spraying with very little Oh, beautiful use of Vigil. They'll be able to sneak right on by the Ayana. Was not expecting that one to come out with such big efficacy, but Fate also able to collect onto their frags as these cluster charge are just raining fire from above, as J-Tree is just going to be lit up in the process, as well as Shinigami doesn't even have to push towards sight.
Kenji, I swear if the audio in Siege worked, we'd hear dun, 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 dun. You gotta get off the games on your phone, right? That's not the time to be droning. You're a little bit too late in the round, a little bit too close to the basement stairwell. It's easy pickings for Vok. Now your team is starting to fall apart a little bit on site. They still have the man advantage, but Fate is taking a lot of damage, and they have no coverage from their teammate to kind of avoid the evil eye there. Thankfully, T Jing finds a nice shot to show and also saves their teammate from the more damage of that burn. Cam finds the final blow, kind of making up the fact they died first in that last round, and maybe they did find the impact. The Twitch drone's not a bad idea, in all honesty, on that second floor for CCTV and Cash, and if they did play that correctly, that is a big play, and Shinigami has already shown his big brain in that last round, using the Fuse to create space, so the impact trick is disallowed, and I'm expecting you may be right about that one there, Binks. Maybe the Twitch was utilized to shock dart out all of those pesky Wamai magnets and ADSs that could have been in play for Agony.
We can't forget that there's also the Maestro Cam that is countered by the Twitch. If you shock a Maestro Cam, it actually disables, and this is with the shield closed. It will disable and open up to be shot, which made Twitch a really good counter, but she still fell out of the meta because previously her drones weren't able to jump. Constantly they're being they're extremely easy to spot out, which in all honesty, they still are really easy to spot out. But can we talk again for the Fuse? Because I think we also forgot to mention that Fuse also has secondary... Fine, we can move on. But I just want to mention the secondary hard breach charges, because those also played a significant part where... I talked about, hey, taking a secondary charge instead of the 2 hard breach, but they still have the 2 hard breach as well as the second. Never mind, they switched to the breach charge, but previously they had the secondary hard breach.
I don't think the secondary hard breach is a bad decision, even in most scenarios. In fact, I would dare argue Cam doesn't really have many options to place those breaching charges, especially on the CCTV side. Why do that when you can just LMG down the wall to gain a sideline anyways? You're just making too big of a hole, but yes, you can go through, but your teammates will do that anyways with, TJing having the lifeline impact, and you also still having Battle to do so. Thank you, Cam, for now proving me entirely wrong. But Battle has those as well, so it's not a huge reason to kind of worry early. But maybe a reason to worry early is the loss of nades by Vok, and I kind of still want to I like the hard breach in the pocket there for Fuse. I like the idea of it because guess what? Fate isn't that confident on Mav tricking out these walls. They burnt everything in round 1. I would still be very, very hesitant to trust Fate to use that as effectively as they could be, and they do a great job here. They get the CCTV hardball, still 3 canisters in the pocket. That does create a lot of space, but there's still another wall or 2 they have to get through. Cam's going to go ahead and cluster charge down the wall leading to construction, but nothing really there, and it's only able to deny a little bit of control of utility for Agony.
They did a really good job clearing. We also saw Cam take out the breaching charge, forgetting that he didn't have the secondary hard breach, so that could be a really key indicator. But they have a minute 35. They've done a phenomenal job clearing so far, but they have not cleared down the roam of Jaeger. That means Vok has freedom to look through this hatch, and the moment they see someone in that construction hatch, that's a free kill, and it could very easily be Fate, which is absolutely pivotal to the push of Shinigami. It would force Battle to have to rotate all around, get him on the side of construction. And even for that, he's been able to shoot out the Selma breaching charges. There is 2 more left, so he won't be able to consistently do that. But regardless, Scott, I gotta be honest, they've done a phenomenal job for time, and it's gonna be a really hard retake for Shinigami.
I think for the side of Shinigami, it's all about just creating space and leveraging what they still have in pocket. Thankfully, despite them losing 2 sets of nades there early with Kinji Meister's death, they still had 2 in the pocket, and Fate's first one finds impact. TJ will be this next player to find it after they'd already managed to find themselves one earlier. That's 3 players down for Agony. Vok's able to find finally something after the somewhat elongated attempt on that roam. Or with a nice shot, actually DBNO's Fate, and will also manage to DBNO TJ, and leaves only Battle left standing, and Battle will be thankfully in a good enough position to go for the resurrection inside of the construction room. They'll finish the job on teaching, ensuring that it will come down to at least somewhat more of a fair off. 2-on-1. Quick swing by Taro. They make a nice shot opportunity to Battle, but Fate through the wall, utilizing the sightline left open by the defense, sees those little footsies pass through and sprays them down quickly.
Oh, that hurts to see, especially when you know Agony had such a close chance. That Toxic Babe, that smoke canister that they threw out early on to try to block the line of sight coming straight directly through construction, if that went through the wall or landed in a particular way, that could have so easily taken out the Maverick, and that's a whole different round. So as Agony go to their final defending round, it's 4-1, and we always talk about this 4-2 split, 4-1, 5-1, how, it favors the attackers. I'm actually interested because I still am on the side of people who feel like Clubhouse is defender-sided. It has those defender aspects. Of course, everything has gone up in the air with the attacker repick. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out. But I actually want your opinion. Would a 4-2 split for Agony be any sort of win?
Agony back on the defense on the basement. Why are they still bringing impacts in the hefty amount they're doing? Thankfully, we don't see GP2 rocking impacts because they had 6 last time, if I remember correctly. So they are adjusting a little bit, and bringing out the Kaid Electric Claws also means that they're making an adjustment, because that means that Shinigami will have to clear out the Electric Claw that can be placed in the racks, actually below the hatch and kitchen, but Vok actually hasn't done that yet. I'm not sure why. And GP2 is getting greedy, looking for an option to maybe shut down an early player, an influential one, for the side of Shinigami, but looks like Cam will manage to scrape themselves away, and there is no way that GP2 pre-fires that angle and still loses the fight against Kenji. That is disgusting. Now 6 kills to their name, tying with T-Jing. That shuts down the Malusi. No wub-wub to be heard to keep them alive, and it's looking like Shinigami cut away with a very early lead.
I'm interested to see if we're going to see a Kai trick where Valkyrie is actually playing right next to the hatch. And that's scary when you hear the cluster charge. But if they do drone it out properly, or do on either side, where if it's either droned out properly, or we actually hear the sound cues used to great effect, that could be a turning tide within the round. That first C4 will be detonated, destroying their own own Electro Claw. And with the first cluster charge of Cam trickling down, it's going to give all these defenders a cue that, hey, it might be time to move away. And I'm really interested to see what type of push is going to come out. Are they going to try to opt to just go for an aggressive push? The Selma breaching charges now finally being put onto the hatch.
Ooh.
But what's this? There's no coordination. The impact charges are going to work to great effect. There's only one left, which means you're going to have to move the Maverick right on over. I don't know if they're going to get kitchen hatch. This could easily turn things around, but there's the secondary can openers. Kills ring out on the other side of the map.
I think like Vonk was just being too greedy. You want the hatch yourself, sure, but you should have just had the hatch control. You are going to let Shinigami take it. It's not about denying it entirely. That is too greedy of a thought process. It is an unlikely possibility. You just completely forgo that thought. It's not going to happen 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100. Here's the problem, though. They're going to get it. Play safe. Why are you just baiting it out in that position? It kind of works, but the late stages of the round, you lost 2 players because of it. You had to fun away from the breaching charges and the cluster charges. And then beyond that, you guys couldn't even get all of your impacts off because your Maestro lost their life through the peak hole. They lose the round. Quick flank by Kenji. They find 2. And Agony's entire strategic position they played through, despite them adjusting their play style, adjusting the operator choices, gets shut down and denied. Shinigami at halftime 5-1 on the attack on Clubhouse.
I think
what are the odds of that being?
I think we can definitely look at it and say that Fuse was the Achilles heel of Agony. Furthermore, I would even argue that that kitchen hatch was the Achilles heel of Agony. They put a lot of effort into trying to deny it, in which case you just have to accept that we put our utility down. Utility is never meant to completely shut out the attackers. That's not how Rainbow Six works. Utility is there to slow them down. They're supposed to have the ability within their operators to go and clear out. Periodically, you clear different types of utility. For example, you get your Jaeger ADSs, then you go for your nade. If you're going for the wall, you either Thatcher, you Maverick, and you get rid of any sort of Mute Jammer, or Kaid Claw, or Bandit Battery. You need to, and I can't stress this enough, you need to understand that the attackers are going to make it in. There's no denying that. It's their entire job. It's what every single one of their kits. They have amplified scopes. They have so much utility to throw at you. To balance it out, you got to give up an area. You just got to let them in.
Considering the meta now, it's util dump simulator. And it's not as much as it used to be because kind of shield consumption simulator is no longer a thing, but it's pretty much the same thing, especially with the favored strategy of bringing 6 nades to the board, right? It's going to happen. But also, speaking of happening, Shinigami, much like the first round of the first half, will TK off the bat. This time it's not Kenji Meister TKing. Maybe they were returning the favor from round 1. I don't remember who killed. But they're down a player once again. And this is not the objective to have that problem. Cam with a great flank, though, managing to catch Bach as they were trying to toss a nade from below. That's a really good idea, but unfortunately, they're losing players on site and towards construction. Shell finds the head of T-Jing, and now it's only 3 players left to defend against a near frontal 4. And they need to find impact, and it's really just off the back of their roam game of Cam. Show, you're in the objective. You're in cash room. Why are you this aggressive, and why has Shinigami not found this out just yet? They're still so scared, focaling in on the CCTV hardwall. This is so much control for Show. They can easily find the kill to rafters. Hopefully, Battle gives the call out in time. That'll force Fate to take a step back. Cam loses on the roam. Taro finds a nice shot to Cam to finish it, and now Fate's the only player left standing, and it is not for long. That is all off the back of one man forcing their way into an objective, and nobody paid attention on the side of Shinigami.
just look at the routes that were possible there. They could have jumped in for CC window for all they cared. There was no coverage. Sure, the audio cue from Garage could have been heard, but show went in through construction. A pivotal point between the two objectives. We've seen extensions into bedroom in some case with the Rome game. That wasn't the case. We saw the hatch open for this match. And I get that Kenji was on the Legion, he died first, but that is no excuse that there should be no coverage. Maybe, I don't see why the bedroom cam would not have been destroyed. So you have someone on that camera listening for the audio cue. I don't know how the communication on Shinigami broke down to that degree. That show went right on into sight. He was sitting comfortably. He threw a drone onto red stairs, for Pete's sake. Scott, I need to wonder within both these teams, and this is no fault to Agony, they took a big use of a hole and they just pushed right on it. They found a bruise and they just opened up that wound.
I talked about this this past Saturday, casted with Chief over at Canada College, an event for high school students going to collegiate, whatever. We were watching a team that was made up of amateur players, which is why I'm kind of leading into this point. They pretty much slaughtered every team that came across them, and one of the reasons why they were able to do that was because a lot of the teams that were there, high school players, young, a lot of the teams that were there didn't really have an understanding of the weak points of their defense, and I think that's what we saw right there for Shinigami, and that may just be them kind of like overlooking it, but that is not a good sign this early. The second Show found themselves a kill, they just greeted it, and that should not happen. There was no excuse for why Show did that. But the problem is, that was rewarded. Show's greed, Show's determination to get onto site and play that angle was rewarded because Shinigami did not watch that angle. And maybe it's because Kenji was responsible for playing construction. Maybe, and they lost him on the TK. I'm not sure. Whatever it comes down to, that should not ever happen by the side of Shinigami, and Agony should have been easily punished for their really lackluster attack beyond that point. We'll have to see some adjustments, I guess, beyond that as we're heading down to the basement site. Shinigami have not lost a player just yet. No TK on their board. Maybe they're scared of getting kicked at this point because it's getting near that with how many they've done, but looks like Agony are trying to take a page out of the Shinigami book. They're using cluster charges as well, but they're using the pocket hard breach of Fuse, which causes a lot of problems because you can't detonate both pieces of utility at the exact same time, and it allows for a little bit of a gap to throw that impact and remove it.
I don't know what I want to think about that push. They really sent Fuse all on their own, and it's going to work out. Bach is able to find Fate, as well as Kenji's going to fall to GP2 as this push is well underway from the central stairs. They're also making their way towards Church, and this could be a really good split push that was mentioned earlier, but Cam does have something to say about that. He'll be able to take a tree quickly refrag there by Taro, and with a 2v4, the remaining two defenders of Ting and Battle, it's all that's going to be left. Now down to a 1v3, make that a 1v2, as Battle still has a good bit of fight left in them. But they are off-site. This plant is entirely possible. Getting lit up, he doesn't know from where. They have the red pings, that's from the Maestro camera. This gives a lot of power to the lonesome player from Shinigami. Swinging around, they're going to make their push on into Arsenal. There's no hope in denying this plant. And now they're back up to even man count as Buck is not going to be concerned with defending that diffuser. Swinging around, he knows that the plant is over inside of Church. He has more than enough time to play with. He doesn't have to rush into this. He can hold his cards close, but he won't. He's going to swing wide, looking towards the double door, and it's Volk to win it out. A very solid round for Agony as they did a phenomenal job of splitting up the site.
Shinigami falter once again, falls short. Despite them doing not a bad job of the impacts, Agony, if you place down the pocket hard breaches, if you fuse, then also have two players to hard breach. You have a Maverick. You brought an Ace. That is a lot of hard breach. That's basically impossible to deny ultimately in the end game. Even with 6 impacts, it would be difficult, but they didn't have 6 impacts. They brought 4. They brought 2 on Kenji, and they brought 2 on Fate. It feels a lot like Shinigami gave up a lot, and I think Agony just outplayed them on that kitchen hatch. And because of the pressure from kitchen hatch, Shinigami faltered from behind. They got cut down a little bit too quickly. Church control was completely given up, and Agony did a really good job to take control over that space. Map control is one of the more important factors of R6, and it's highly slept on when viewing just like in a casual basis, because you're just like, oh, well, they're they're just pushing this area. Oh, they got to go through this room to get to site anyway, so they're just going to go through it. That's why you see defenders hold those spots. They're not just going to hold on to the objective. They're not just going to hold on to Armory and Church and just be done with it. That's why you see them extend, because map control buys time. Map control denies sight lines that an attacking team can use to fight towards sites, and especially for larger objectives where it's basically impossible to reinforce all of the soft wall options, map control makes it so you don't have to reinforce every wall. And as long as you hold on to those rooms, you're much prettier and much better off than you would be if you just tried to stay stagnant on site.
I want to bring up a point too. Your favorite site, which we're hopefully going to see in the next map, it's actually going to be kitchen and dining on Villa, because we talked about how you can see a pulse on that site. And I'm starting to wonder, there's no IQ, there's no drone to stop it. Why is there not more of an emphasis on nading out this fuse? Why not attempt to counter them with an explosive that's already premeditated? You could wait as the pulse, or even work in tandem with either your Kaid or someone you'd be using for the impact. So either the Malusi or even possibly the Maestro.
I think one of the reasons why is a lack of information. There's no Mozzie for the pest to steal a drone and watch from within kitchen hiddenly, right? They're not going to place an evil eye in a kitchen because it'll get cleared too quickly by the side of Agony. And I mean, if they had a sledge, that'd be a bit more of a concern, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. It just feels like Shinigami are too scared to do so because there's not enough guarantees, and they would rather save that Nitro cell for later when they're a bit more sure that it will make impact instead of it can make impact. I'll tell you what an impactful player might be. One on the side of Agony, they'll find an early frack, actually take off battle, and Kenji Meister lose the fight to the two players of Vok and J-Tree inside kitchen, who were trying to vie for control of those floorboards, and now forces Fate to step on over. They'll try to impact trick out the floorboards, and while they do manage to find some slight impact, it's really only just for now. They'll throw down that Selma, and there's no real way to deny this, especially with Fate just saying, all right, I'm going to retreat back towards tunnel, and this is a dangerous point to retreat to. Two players working within. They'll try to spray down with the LMG. They find one hunting for the second, 1 HP in a dream, but they'll have to take that step back. Fate will not tempt their fate for much longer. Notice the rain from Cam. They find a nice opportunity. They get a quick flick to 2. Now Cam left standing in the 1-on-2. Taro and GP2 have so much control over this, and Cam does not seem like a likely spot to come back from.
This hatch is really, really worrisome. But they have the ping, which means they could possibly go for the drop, but they don't have the entire picture. Hindsight is 2020, and this is exactly why they had no way of knowing that there was still a player situated inside of Church. The Ayana being able to just wait there, just once again, Agony taking control. I think rather a lot more effective. I was really concerned when I saw the Cade on the side of Shinigami running right around. I think those holes massively favor the attackers, and it just seemed really reckless in my books. You should not be running around when you, one, don't have a C4, two, your amplified scope actually does not help you in that scenario. If you're looking through floorboards, you want to have the biggest picture possible, so that 1x is what you're looking for. Not to mention the fact that you are a 3 armor moving around making so much noise.
Noise is one of the bigger factors at the time too, Binks. It's just one of the small things that kind of helps. Me and Chief cracked a couple jokes about this. Father Time is the 11th man in the field, right? And it typically favors the defense. Yet, he also wanted to crack the joke, well, why don't you think about, I don't know, sight lines as being the other one or anything else? I was like, no. If we're going to count anything, it's going to be audio is the 12th person on the field. And it's a fickle mistress. The attack needs to come in swiftly, but they also make a lot of noise in the process. Nade throws and hard breach noises and the intel that can be gathered from footsteps that works against defense on their roamers if they're not quiet. And noise is such an important factor in R6. That's why everyone shoots the jukebox down in bar so that it doesn't make noise. And unfortunately, you can't shoot the jukebox on the new map, apparently. I saw that on Chief's Twitter. But,
yeah, that one aggravated me. I'm not going to lie.
Why would
I remember there being a chalet glitch all the way back in the day where you could not shut off the jukebox and people lost their minds about it. Rightfully so. Those things are really loud and annoying. And when you distract any audio, you stop communication within a team. Things are bound to break up, and it's rather unfortunate, just to say the least. And you talked about that noise, that nade exploding, that sound as well as visuals that tell you, oh, wait, they're already in stock. Information that then gets fed to the team. So for the defending side of Shinigami, it gives them a lot of freedom to play. freedom that Kenji Meister can use to get a huge double kill. That's 2 sets and 8, and Show already down on the ground. I don't even know where.
Was he window peeked?
I think he was either window peeked or he fell.
If he fell, he might have fallen. I'm
I think
out of words. I think he fell.
I think he fell.
I think he fell. Uh-oh. Quickly call life alert. J-Tree makes their way over, hearing the alarm, and... well, that's Shinigami taking the lead. Something we have not seen them do in the past few rounds. They did have wiggle room. I mean, they were obviously in a 5-1 half at one point. Now it's 5-4. Oh,
no!
My God. The side, just DQ. Just leave, Agony. I'm at that point. This is not happening. That's 2 players! 2 on the Agony side that you've now let literally fall physically. Oh my gosh, that is. Oh, I can't anymore on that. Well, I can't touch the topic anymore. It's not happening. But
Shinigami is actually going down the park. He could have just dropped there. He didn't have to repel either. That's the funny part.
Shinigami have put themselves in a good spot. Agony have dug the grave deeper. And Shinigami, though they had that wiggle room, like I mentioned, in the 5-1 half, they didn't act on it. Losing a round or 2, not bad. Losing a round or 2 with no round to return back through, taking 3 rounds plus to find your first in the second half, that's bad. Because there's not 6 rounds to bleed. Agony will catch up and reach point faster than you and basically guarantee OT. But with Shinigami basically being handed this one on a silver platter by gravity itself, you would lead them to believe that they have a really good chance here, especially with time now only being at 20 seconds.
I think that the 12th minute you're talking about is not sound. Indeed, it is gravity that really favors the defenders. Regardless, Taro is going to be able to get 1 frag to their name, but with 15 seconds, Toxic Babes being smoked out. They have no options to get to site. They don't even have the health to push through. They'll get the frag. That's phenomenal. That's 2 for the Maverick, but 2 seconds. They can't get onto site. The C4, and it's going to be 1 off of what I don't even think was time. I think they were to collect all the frags off the C4 and the spray. That was handed to them.
You are down to 20 seconds. You are down to 20 seconds on the clock, and you go, okay, guys, don't worry. There's enough time for me to draw circles on the wall. There's enough time for me to create a rotation hole for us. Don't worry, guys. We're okay. I'll just make a rotation hole. Just step through the Toxic Babe. Just go through it. Hand the diffuser to the highest HP person you have on your team. You're already desperate. Just be desperate. You're not hiding that. You're not saving the mental. You're not like going, okay, guys, we were totally fine there. You're screwed. You have to go faster. Trying to make a rotation hole was not the right idea. Step through the door, get a nice swing to logic. They did that. They found the kill. And it set themselves up to have some simple success. And if that had come 10, 15 seconds earlier, they would have still had a chance. But no, time fizzles out. They didn't too long having to run across the entire map, picking up everybody who fell early, and they died to the roam game, their first 2 players off the board. That was probably one of the worst rounds I've ever witnessed in CCL by Agony. And it's mostly off the back of the somewhat humiliating gravity falls that they had. But a great job by Shinigami to use their utility correctly in the last few moments to make matters worse for them. Really just saying, I know you're in a bad spot, guys. You know, I'm not going to help you out, though. Here's the Toxic Babe. Choke on it.
Those first 2 kills also from Kenji on the Malusi, those came out really early on in the round, where there was noise being made, but there was no drone to back them up. Those 2 attackers, I think it was the Finka and the Ayana that were inside of storage, they were completely left there to dry. Like, they were left out to dry. They had no ability to really focus in. They had no ability to watch lounge, which is probably one of the most commonly watched angles. You have to watch out for that. And I do believe, and I'm going to credit Shinigami with a lot more from this, was the fact that there was a hole in the bottom of stock to bar wall. So they were most likely watching for the long angle, which has been used notoriously in the past.
Well, we're going to call it the incident of March 28th for Agony. They'll have to constantly be reminded of what occurred here on Clubhouse. And that allows for Shinigami now to reach match point. 6-4 our score, 3-round return by Agony, and big demoralizing loss thereafter. Hopefully the mental is not chalked enough to allow Shinigami just to collect a second one in a row. Agony did a really good job. Actually, I take that back. Agony won the round here last time on CCTV and Cash. I won't say a really good job because Shinigami just wasn't good. They TK'd in the very beginning, and they left a huge hole that Sho just rushed in and killed with. And if we see Agony trying to do that again, they're not winning that. I don't think it's possible, but we saw early glimpses of them actually planning out a strategy. And I liked the start of that strategy. I just didn't necessarily like the ending that went through. Good job of them to pounce on Shinigami, though, in an effective manner. But with the round going underway and the operator selection we see them bring to the table, the more important aspect and the bigger thought process is how much pressure are they going to put towards the site of construction and how early are they going to apply that pressure?
I think it's a question if they'll even go. I think it is accepted that they will go for construction, but what other parts of the map are they going to deem worthy of any sort of time? Are they going to say, all right, let's actually go and clear garage, which they didn't have to do. They didn't have to even throw a single body into garage because they already had show inside of sight. Or are we going to see them go for more of a direct pressure where they just neglect bedroom, which clearly is not the case, as GP2 is going to be clearing right through with 3 Finkaboos still in their pocket.
We're going to have to see the pressure towards construction start to come quicker if they're going to apply it. GP2 has 2 nades in the pocket. If they lose their life here, that would be quite bad, especially considering how important the adrenal surge is to the side of Agony here on the attack. There's a possibility of 2 players walking into the line of sight. It's TJ that does just that. The LMG in the hands of GP2 manages to find themselves the kill. Destruction is the name of the game now for Agony. They found the first blow. Now they just need to act off of it without getting that early trade. Unfortunately for them, Battle has a nice opportunity for 1. Gets a nice shot on over and makes this down to the 4-on-4. Nade toss now by Taro from the side of the CCTV hardwall. And with the softball being open, notice the differing in strategy between Shinigami and Agony. Agony cleared up the bottom of the floor. Shinigami goes tops because you can stand on the tables. Now Kenji Meister's being pressured from both sides. Taro finds 1 kill. Vok from the side of inside of sight trying to play and apply pressure towards Rafters. 1 HP in a dream. Allows for Taro to maybe try to assist, but a smart play by both sides to play this one casually. GP2 down, picked up by the adrenal surge. Taro and Vok each find one of their own, dropping this one now to the 1-on-2. They're going to start to plant the diffuser. They'll have to dive on, but Vok does a great job to cover, steps back up from planting, and will finish the job.
I think we just saw displayed beautifully by Agony why CC with Maverick on the board is so impossible to hold. If we just break down that round, Maverick had the coverage from the wall, which he inevitably and eventually pushed in through right onto sight. We saw construction was not held strong enough by Shinigami that the Finka of Voke was able to push right on in and get the opening frag. Furthermore, we just saw an absolute collapse where the exact same problem as last time is players were just running around on the inside of CC, and that was the Twitch that we saw, and I believe that was J-Tree that was on the Twitch last round? I'm not sure, though. I'm not
yes? Sure. Wait, you're asking who was on Twitch? It was Vok.
It was Vok. Oh, I mixed the two. Yeah, I mixed the two.
J-Tree was still playing the Ace. The only difference we're seeing right now is that Vok has switched to the Finka, which was the job of GP2 last round, and now GP2 is playing the Ayana. That's the only difference right now. And this isn't making a breaking round for Agony here on map 1. All things considered, it's match point still for Shinigami. They have been looking down the wrong end of the barrel, so to say, in the situation, but there's still the chance of recovery. It just comes down to them denying the outlooks from Shinigami, and Shinigami has employed a very SSG-styled roam. They have the Mute, they have the Mozzie, they have the Vigil. They can definitely extend themselves up to that second and first floor, but notice how strong Agony have truly been in most rounds about their roam clear. The only time we've seen them have a lackluster roam kill was when we saw them fall off the map time after time. So, if they step back to the old Agony, then they'll start to make Shinigami feel like they're in pain, Agony maybe even, and cut down those extended players quite early and cause Shinigami to be forced to fight with only 3 or even 2 players on down on site in the basement.
I'm not sure whose secondary hard breach. I think it was Show's secondary hard breach being thrown onto the CC wall with no intention there, not even being assisted by the Maverick. So I'm not too sure what we're seeing going on, but great job with the Mute, as Maverick is not going to be the one to clear these notoriously defender-sided walls. If you have a Maverick, there's no reason why that shouldn't be cleared out. It's just free utility elsewhere. And I think we're about to see clearly demonstrated why it's going to be so much harder. Even though kitchen hatch is open, all of the players on Agony are not going to feel safe within that kitchen.
Early kill garnered, and Shinigami's kind of extended roam loses a player to help facilitate it. Jing off the board, and the floorboard's being effectively cleared out. But notice the control on the second floor from Kenji. They have control over Kitchen. They can just continue to pounce down. They'll use the floorboards and Logi to do just that. K1A in hand. Find Show. Commando in hand for Fate. Managing to find J-Tree. Now 2 players felled by Agony. There's no quick trade back. Vok lying in a very dangerous spot, knowing that Kenji was just up in Logi before, utilizing the hellholes from above to their advantage. But it looks like the rotation has been made and maybe an escape kind of being utilized. They've managed to take an even trade up and above even. But the question is, how can Agony start to step down? They've lost their fuse. They've lost the ace to breach. They've lost the butt for the floorboard control. They only have the fuse with the pocket breaches and the blowtorch to get anything done. Nade tossed down. That's the last of Taros. Still 2 in the pocket for GP2. But they have not yet been able to finish the job. A Nitro Cell in Fate's hands. Could be a quick toss from below. Vok's already dropped down that kitchen hatch, taking a lot of damage. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, and Kenji will be the rock that strikes first. Now only 2 players left for Agony. Make it 1 with GP2 being DB and Ode. And it's just Taro left standing. The job is finished quite quickly. And that is a fabulous round to finish things off by Shinigami. Something that we were seeing them struggle to do. I liked it. Much better performance from them. I'm also blind right now, so don't be shocked when we cut back to camera real fast. Quite entertaining to have 6 windows in your room, and one of those is now blinding me.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, just your presence here today... Just your presence here today is blinding me, but now I can say that it is actually blinding me.
This is how it feels to play CSGO. This is how it feels to have CSGO flashes right here. That's what it is.
Point of view, they brought Blitz. Point of view, they brought Blitz.
Oh my goodness. When the Candela is in play. That's what that is right there. Yeah, there you go. I moved my softbox. We're good now. You can just get it blind for that one window. All the other natural light, great. That one window, not so good. Speaking of not so good, Agony did pretty darn good on the attack. Let's be honest. I would dare say most of their attacks are better than Shinigami, but they bled the wrong rounds. That, honestly, the round they lost first, after a 3-round spree, should never have been lost. I bet you if they had not lost an extra player early on their attempted entry and then 2 players in the DB&O and wasting time, they probably would have won that, even if it was a 4-on-5, because Shinigami's defense had a lot of weak links. They were constantly making mistakes. Their roam game was too greedy. We saw them lose another roamer early. Jing falls the very first player in that last round, and the recovery was only made because Agony refused to look up and see that the Logi floorboards were cleared.
I think that final round is also a good testament to the fact that Agony wasn't really going for those 3rd floor clears, or they attempted it, but when they saw it was too much of an obstacle, they just let it be. And that's the real danger with the space station roam / extension, where if you don't go for that big clear, or you don't actually dedicate the utility, that's where it becomes so very lethal. And I don't think they read into that as much as they should have. But regardless, Shinigami escape with that map 7-5. We're going to hit you guys with a quick 5-minute break. Don't go anywhere. CCL will be right back.
they all see that it's a lie. 'Cause we always give it one last try. Yeah, you've watched me break 1,000 times. Now I'm all alone, 'cause you never show. You say you will, but then you don't. That's how it goes. Don't wanna know. I'm turning off my mind so I get by. I just wanna be happy, happy tonight. Happier tonight. Happier tonight. Can't be waiting for you in the morning. I'ma leave without giving a warning. I'ma leave without giving a. But every time we say goodbye, we all know that it's a lie. Now I'm all alone, 'cause you never show. You say you will, but then you don't. That's how it goes. Don't wanna know. I'm turning off my mind so I get by. I just wanna be happy, happy tonight. Happier tonight. Happier tonight. Can't be waiting for you in the morning. I'ma leave without giving a warning. I'ma leave without giving a. But every time we say goodbye, we all know that it's a lie. I just wanna be happy. I think the girls with their nails done now.
Welcome back,
Welcome back.
everybody. Just throw it out the window. I'm going to say it. I was fairly excited to see how map 1 went down, and a little less excited to see how map 2 is going to go down, because we're still on a map that has a really tall ceiling. So if you're an Agony fan out there, watch out, because maybe gravity will rear its ugly head once again. But let's be frank, I don't think they're going to let that happen again. I think that they know that we caught that on video and are going
Caught in
to
4K.
avoid the repel game. Yeah, caught in 4K.
The first one, we had our doubts. The first one, we had our doubts on the side of how on the garage side, but it's in the past, done, dusted. They were in Agony, but don't worry, Shinigami just gave them an easy way out. Well, actually, not too easy. They did put up a really valiant effort on their attack, and it does breed some worries going into Villa, which is going to be our second map. On the side of Shinigami, I do believe we're going to see a lot more of that verticality that was starting to shine through on those later rounds, especially what we saw the Vigil completely shut down Kitchen from the vertical impact hole in logistics. That's quite rare that works out as efficiently as it did, but Villa is almost entirely a vertical map.
I would like to point out that one of the things you see a lot of on Villa is verticality for master bedroom control for my favorite objective in R6, the kitchen dining site, but it can be said for a lot of these areas for vertical control. If they're playing on the other mainstay objective of, I say other, one of the two mainstay objectives, since we have not mentioned that yet, planes and games. The nades being tossed from below cause a lot of damage and create a lot of hellholes to look through and apply pressure to the defense to not allow them to sit in a lot of those safe corners. And me and Brian, Chief, had a couple conversations about why nade spam is so strong on that map and why it doesn't always find kills is because there's a lot of places you can stand on. You can stand on bar, you can stand on the billiards table, you can stand on map. Not a lot of people know the nade position to toss it to catch out the player behind a couch that's overturned. You can hang out in vault. There's a lot of places to deny nade control. That's why you don't see nothing but nade spam, but at the same time, that's also why you bring a Rotero drone, why you bring the Flores. Clear out the shields that are really the only places you're going to be placing ADSs and magnets, and you've essentially cut off the focal point for the defense, their apex position, and have now forced them to play back on site where it's an easy shot opportunity for you as long as you've droned out their kind of hidey holes and have your gun up ready when you swing those doors.
I really like that point where you're going for the nades, where you see the nades dumped out, but I actually want to focus more on the aspect of them being able to find those little hidey holes, where Statue and Trophy has been a site that I've always come to love. And you actually see some teams that have gone for an extension in the past into bedroom using a castle barricade. So the nade meta does counter any sort of push like that, but players still manage to sit inside a closet with all of this utility, and it's just they're expecting the utility dump. But to what degree does a defending team trade off? Do we save and try to stop this nade meta, or do we actually go for more of an aggressive extension? It's a really big give or take relationship.
I feel like the nade meta has evolved to a point that defensively you don't need to do much to counter it. You just avoid it. And that's what I'm saying. Getting on top of objects so the nades can't kill you from below, transitioning and not staying still and stagnant on sides. You're much less turtling and actually hiding within your shell because that shell is quite... well, I mean, it may be somewhat bulletproof behind some of those objects. It's not explosive proof, and you get proven that from those nades from below. You kind of have to be more mobile, more agile in those positions, and that's the kind of complete, full stop counter to the nade spam kind of style. And the fact that you can adjust it purely off of your play style to counter it is a much better idea than having to pick a whole new operator selection, changing the entire meta of play just to counteract it, like when Shield Consumption Simulator came out. Everyone then had to switch to dumping nothing but flashes and then having to use nades to get rid of them. We countered that instead by just adding a couple Gone 6s. The operator pool didn't change that much. Just pick up a Gone 6 and you'll dump and get rid of those fairly quickly because Hibana has a ton of flashes you can use, and you just have to kind of utilize what's given to you. But with Villa in play, I'm expecting our veto phase to be fairly stagnant. It's kind of meta for a reason. R6 is one of the only esports that has a ban phase inside of it when it comes to who you can play. League of Legends is one of those, but who plays that game? League of Legends is one of them, but R6 is one of the ones that does that. And despite us having this really cool feature that almost no other esport has, it's always the same exact thing. And I'm expecting it to be Thatcher, probably a Flores, Mira, and Valkyrie.
Just to capitalize and wind up, like tie a nice little neat bow on this nade talk we've been having, I want to start a rally right here and now. Everyone in chat can get behind me. Hopefully, throw back a nade. Let us pick them back up and throw them. Please, like maybe like you can try to play with the radius with how close you have to be to the nade, if you have to look directly at it, but bring it back. I miss playing hot potato.
No.
What?
Counter argument. Plus ratio.
Okay, I want to hear this.
That is essentially would do one thing. High-level players, they know exactly how much they need to cook their nades. What is that going to do to the competitive scene? Nothing. Because high-level players cook their nades correctly. They throw it in positions that it would be impossible to throw back anyways. Like, I don't know, from below on the first floor like we've been talking about the entire time. Throwing back nades doesn't do much. Instead, let's bring out Martyrdom. So when a player dies, they drop all their nades and the pins are already pulled so that their teammates die. That'd be much more fun. Good for the game? Not so much. But I think we're about ready to jump on into the game. We'll stop talking your ear off here at the very least. We'll start to see what goes down, and we can confirm what the veto phase will go through. Like I said, I'll reiterate what I mentioned. Thatcher, Flores, Valkyrie, and Mira are my expected vetoes here in this phase.
I can actually see Mira slipping through. Just because it's Villa and there is ways to counter it. First operator gone is going to be the ace. That's a really weird ban from Shinigami.
It's a ranged hard breach, which is not bad, but Hibana's just better.
Yeah.
I would rather they played
I
ace.
don't.
Oh, Thatcher's left through, actually. This creates a lot of possibilities, except the fact that Thatcher's really not that good in this map, and I will die on
Not
that
at
hill.
all.
He's really
Yeah,
not good in this map.
he's not. I'll join you. I'll join you. Thatcher can escape ban phase for a few reasons here, where you can still throw them out, but what are you really disabling? It doesn't really add too many layers to what the defense is able to do. Sure, you can go and throw a Hibana pellet, but then you have to time it, thermite charge, then you have to... It gets really yucky. I think Thatcher's banned out on a lot of different maps because of how easily he can shut down.
This is the most useless ban I've ever seen in R6. If you ban a Maverick on the map of Oregon, you have to ban Kaid, because then there's no real way to go about it, because Thatcher will be that secondary attacker ban. Kaid is entirely countered by an EMP that's been let through. And guess what? You caused it to be let through by not taking Flores or Thatcher first. You took Ace. Why? When you could have banned a Hibana if you're going to pick a ban on a ranged hard breach who has more piece of utility by having those flashes, who actually has a hard breach that's a little bit more useful for sightline control and is much easier to use safely at distance instead of having to throw your whole body around the corner to toss it out against a wall. I'm actually angry at Shinigami's ban phase right now.
There's so many better defenders. So many. You could go for a crazy mute. I know they like the mute. I would not mind a mute ban. It means that we actually get to hear everything. But why? Why?
Is that what causes us to not hear things? Is mute?
I think it is.
It sounds like we're muted, but I don't know. I just think that's Art 6 at its finest. Who knows?
I think so. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to think that Shinigami has some beautiful, crazy insight into Agony's setups and strats that we, as the casters, are just not privy to. And I'm going to just look at this site as if we didn't even see these bans. As if Thatcher's banned because Thatcher is on the board. So I can't even do that. I can't.
I'm just angered. That's like... I need time to
I'm
cool
not
my head.
angry. I'm just disappointed.
No, I'm more than disappointed. I am angry. I have evolved past that point. Shinigami, your defense is already your worst side. By far. Your defense on that last map was abysmal. In a lot of ways, you gave up too many weak links, and there was too many problems to count on so many possible options that were there, and Agony still fell short to be able to take the map, despite having a good comeback potential. Now you've gone into this, we've wasted a defensive ban, they now have a lot more potential. Well, yes, I get to use a mirror. You're not even using the mirror to make matters worse, and this is one of the only objectives I would say a mirror is good at. Well, you can play it. You'd put it behind bar, both sides there. You'd be able to catch them off guard as they step into study. Maybe you play one back towards Classical Hall to get a little bit of a sight line. It's not good otherwise there, but... it just seems like such a limited focal point. Thankfully for them, they'll find the first kill in the round. They take off Vok, and that's the sledge for the side of Agony off the board, and that's nade potential. The possibility of the spam denied. Now only 2 in the pocket in the hands of GP2. That also cuts down the sledgehammer, which could have been quite effective in regards to knocking some of these softer walls out towards Classical Hall, but the danger is still present as probably Shinigami's cleared out the floorboards, and yes, they have. They've reinforced one and left the other one soft.
They've done a good job. I need to admire Agony. They've done a really good job clearing as much as they need to. They have the Thatcher ready to go, but you also got to watch out for your feet. Taro already possibly about to bite the dust. Those Skyros pellets will detonate successfully inside a vault, and that's going to split the site in half, as seen Taro already able to collect onto a singular one of those frags. Refrag quickly coming out by Tijing. And it's going to quickly separate any hope that that Agony had of pushing up. GP2 and Show the remaining 2 attackers, but they have no coverage. They don't know what angles they have to be watching, as Shinigami seemingly has everything covered.
Do you see what I see right there on the wall inside vault? It's a giant gaping hole used by a hard breach that looks like it almost was a Selma, but no, it's Hibana. She does the same job, but better and more. I'll move on from that point eventually, I promise. But Show, utilizing the Thatcher, trying to step through into Vault, but fate is tempting the fate of the Grim Reaper, trying to decide which side will fall first, and I think it probably will be Agony, as they have not yet been cut instead. There it is. Show will fall, but GB2 has a great angle, swings into bar. and is able to get control over the back of Bar and finds 2 in the process. Face just going to take a step back, a very wise decision, knowing that there's no way they'll get the diffuser and no way they can start to put that plant down safely. An easy round win cleanup for the Shinigami side, though they did start to bleed a little bit. It's more like a paper cut, which does hurt, but is not going to hurt you ultimately in the end. A lot of weak links for Shinigami on that defense. I felt like they maybe were a little bit too on site. I felt like their main stairs control towards Lamp on Classical Hall wasn't that solid, and I feel like I would prefer them to put a shield down in front of door in Classical Hall to deny the option and safety net of Agony to actually peruse through Vault, because obviously from what we saw there, they do like the option of stepping in through Vault and breaching that way.
Kitchen dining going to be the next site we look towards. I have a lot of hope for this. Okay, possible rehost. I do have a lot of hope, or I had a lot of hope for this site on the side of Shinigami. There's not any call for a rehost.
Oh,
there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Oh, we are back, so I think we will actually be getting that rehost. Not too sure what happened, but you're back with us for more theory crafting on Scott's favorite site.
Well, okay, so the reason why I love that objective, you'll have to wait to hear, because we're actually going to jump to a quick little break in between that. We'll talk about it when we jump into it. Make sure to stay tuned to hear, also just to see Shinigami, whether or not they can hold down on the defense or whether or not they can, unfortunately, be cut down by Agony. Stay tuned for more.
So sorry, but we're not the same. No, we're not the same. Boo-hoo, poor you. Please forgive me, cause I don't feel any pity. I'm fed up with lies. You wanted my demise. Now you're watching me rise, rise, rise. Up in the window, smaller and smaller you fade out. Up, up, up in the window. You cannot get my vibe. No, there's no way. I'm flying high above all your gravity, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. You cannot get my vibe. No, there's no way. You can say what you want, call me insane, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. Watch me levitate. Hey, hey, watch me watch me levitate. You cannot kill my vibe. No, there's no way. I'm flying high above all your gravity, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. You cannot kill my vibe. No, there's no way. You can say what you want, call me insane, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. Watch me levitate. Hey, watch me levitate.
The year is 1991. Birds and people are living together in seemingly perfect harmony, until one day a young man catches fire. This is Phoenix.
You've been knocked down and got up again. In a corner, you're surrounded, no defenders. You've hid your fury and kept it in. But it's time now, you ignite and turn to embers.
Welcome back, everybody. We're about ready to jump right back into it. Sorry for the rehost. At least it's not Border from last week with Shinigami. Maybe Shinigami's just the problem child of CCL right now. Are they the ones doing this? Or what was their rehost, actually? So, but,
you have a valid point.
We'll have to head back to that objective to see what's going down. I'll finally reveal why I think the map and the objective here for kitchen dining is my favorite objective in all of R6. It's not my favorite map as a whole, but this objective alone makes it for me. First and foremost, the operator selection you typically see on the defense. Lots of mutes, lots of pulses, lots of Capcans, who is occasionally picked as well. It's just a lot of reminiscent Year 1, Year 2 operator selections, which brings me to a very nostalgic feel. When it comes to the attack, you don't see a lot of the futuristic stylized operators. You don't see people that have these gadgets that are timed and explode and attached to players and do all these random things. It's very much so the tried and true standard hard breach, sledge, maybe a buck even, a lot of nades, and just a simple person to watch that flank, which in this case is J-Tree on that Nomad, which is a fairly older styled operator as well. I love the nostalgic factor, and despite the fact that everything in R6 has had this level of power creep of the future is changing, get with the program, the fact that we can still see these operators pop off the way they have leads me to believe that the game's not dead just yet. But I'm speaking about who might just be dead yet. It's the side of Shinigami, but Kenji Meister has a great look. That's a great option to deny the potential sprint through Pantry, one of the only 3 main points of interest to push through. It looks like Agony were definitely teasing the option to go for it.
This is really interesting where the hard breach is already being committed towards this pantry wall. We saw, I don't know how many pellets were shot off that first time, but that could almost entirely guarantee now for Shinigami that they completely denied pantry wall. So you talked about that pantry rush, something you have to worry about. If it's only through the door in a small hole, that's a lot more manageable because it's not 2 lines of sight. You don't have to worry as much of a utility dump. Not to mention the fact that Kenji Meister is actually using that cardiac sensor to be able to tell if anyone's jumped into pantry. Meaning to swing around and not watch your angles. We're actually going to see a plant as Taro's already pushed in, but from where? Into dining? How do you get in with only a pulse? Diffuser's been successful. Raymond forced to rotate back. What is going on here for Shinigami is they've just completely given up the site?
There are 3 ways to push that objective. 1, take control over Mimo, go through Skylight Hall, and start to apply pressure directly onto site. 2, go in through Pantry, quick sprint through the basement, go up the Pantry staircase, and then dive onto the kitchen objective, and then start to move towards Dining to go for the plants. 3rd, 2nd floor, really slow and methodical. Essentially, you're just a contractor doing an open floor plan and starting to essentially destroy the resale value of this villa. Agony started to apply pressure as if they're going for the pantry rush. They didn't end up opting for it as their main thing. They took a step back, played a little bit slower, but the Skylight Hall pressure, the danger from multiple directions, and the fact that Shinigami were constantly fearing for their life from how many options have been made available for Agony ultimately was their undoing as they're looking the wrong way and Agony pounces, and they just do it in such a simplistic manner. Its speed, its decision-making, Agony just deserved that round first and foremost, but now we're heading to the what is also considered the mainstay objective of this map. We're going to go over to Statuary, and we're going to go over to Trophy to see if Shinigami can keep Agony at bay with the slight extension on over towards the south.
One thing I really like so far is J-Tree switching over towards the Zero. I'm a huge advocate. I think Zero brings a really diverse kit to the table. 2 drones, 4 cameras, all that can be used to burn ADSs, secondary hard breach. Those cameras can also be used to zap away like a Twitch drone in the Mira, which is on the board, or you can look at it zapping away at a Meister once it opens up. Jaeger ADS, mute, you name it, it can shoot it. Not to mention the fact it gets better. They have access to the Gon 6, so they can burn their own utility and then shoot out that Meister camera or any sort of utility that is inside of their way. So great use from Agony. I'm interested to see if it works out.
5-on-5 still. That's 40 seconds where Shinigami has not bled the first frag. That'd be a good starting point for them. And when I talk about the extension that goes towards study, that kind of relies on the fact that Agony will apply pressure in that direction. But from the looks of things, they're sending 3 players on the balk outside Master Bedroom. They've already managed to put Vok inside. And with the fact that Thatcher was left unbanned, that leads us to believe that this Master Bedroom hard wall is not long-lived, as it will not be a hard job for them to clear it out. Surya Gate placed between the Master Bedroom door leading over to Statuary. And while there is a nice neat cubby for the potential placement, Fate's close by. Battles battling it out with an impact, forced to trick the wall, but they placed 3 and detonated all the pellets at one time. That's a sightline gain for Agony in the bottom right corner of that hard wall, and they're using it to apply pressure towards Trophy. TJ taking a lick of damage, but J-Tree is the player to find the first level of impact, taking down Raymond, and now Kenji's been DBNO'd. Fate will fall first. Vok is the player to do so. They'll swing into sight, finding a second, finishing off battle. Kenji's still down, but the nade from GP2 finds it, teaching all by their lonesome, and though they do find one, Show makes sure they do not find a second, and they'll end that round off. Agony just demoralizing the side of Shinigami. That was a cutthroat round, and they deserved every single outlook they got. Shinigami just gave up, it felt like, on sight.
Well, we can break that down that round. Once again, Taro on that Hibana, coming up huge. They got the wall open with the 3, and the reason why that's so powerful, why Hibana can be so powerful in that instance, is sometimes a bigger hole in the wall is actually not going to favor the attackers as much. That precision that you can have with either a Maverick or a Hibana of a certain hole being opened up is the equivalent to an Aruni Puncher, where it can be cold and calculated. Furthermore, whenever you have a push with the information that Agony had, whether it be from the 0 cams or just the insane amount of drone information that was gathered so early on in the round, there's nowhere for Agony to hide, and they were just slim pickings. It was just a quick and thorough cleanup of sight. They didn't have a hold inside of Astro. That was almost completely taken out immediately. I have to wonder, what was Shinigami's plan, and what route were they hoping to deny?
Well, the game plan there was more than likely the option of just impact tricking the wall out and buying time. The same thing that we talked about that Agony failed to do on the defense, where they tried to completely deny Kitchen Hatch on map 1 of Clubhouse, and instead just should have played the waiting game and played a little bit smarter by having them just buy the extra time. Shinigami tried to do that. And instead, because Thatcher was left unbanned, because, let's be frank, they cut their own Achilles tendon in that ban phase and have essentially, at least I would say, made it really hard to play the defense on this map now. They left Thatcher unbanned, didn't ban the right hard breacher, and it was easy pickings for the side of the Agony to push forward by using those X-Kairos pellets decisively, cutting 1, doing 2, placing 3, detonating all at the same time with only 2 impacts to counter it. It's not going to go. And Show, we all saw that. Thank you very much, Nova, for cutting to that. I love
Nova,
watching players make those mistakes.
Once again showing gravity is Agony's enemy. It's not Shinigami. It's just
utility,
gravity.
apparently, is also the problem. Just getting it out there, because they're running and gunning for half of this. It almost looks like Call of Duty with the way Agony plays it sometimes. But they have definitely had some great counter plays, like the Kairos pellets from that last round we spoke about. And the problem now is the problem child of Classical Hall. Vok has to get greedy for it, and much better decision. Shinigami have placed the shield in Classical Hall. That Gon 6 did not break the bulletproof camera. How? I don't think Shinigami are aware that it's still up.
I think that was a kill through the drone hole as well. We're also going to have a disconnect, but round's already well underway, so it will be a possible rehost after this. We'll have to see this 5v3 play out. Shinigami has the advantage, and they've done a thorough job being able to deny any sort of advance, but there's no hard breach remaining for Agony. They have to make do. They don't have any way to get through these walls. 1 EMP remaining in the pocket of Show that could make a difference, but Raymond's waiting it out and not getting droned out. To say the least, that's an easy and big blunder on the side of Agony. They have 2 players now to work with, and it seems very, very slim that they'll be able to pull anything out.
J-Tree on the Nomad, GP2 with the Ayana, 2 nades and 3 flashes between the 2 of them. And yes, the Gemini Replicator can drone out, and the air jabs can watch for a flank, but you're fighting a 2-on-5 battle, and there's just not a great option. Make it a 1-on-5. Kenji with the commando swings on over to main hall and able to take J-Tree off the board. GP2 does a good job of managing to scrape by with 1 success. It's only 1 player dead, and it's Raymond, and the sight lines are being held by Shinigami. They don't need to greed for this position, but they're going to do so. A single shot tapped around that corner, and a round recovery by Shinigami. They look like they were moonwalking there for a moment, and unfortunately, it does not seem to work out. The dodging not happening, and Agony will lose that round. 2-2 the scoreline. Shinigami tying us back up.
I like that round from Shinigami for a few reasons. They used the map to their advantage. Although they didn't go for the roam that we talked about that first time they held it, they did a phenomenal job of, 1, watching that drone hole, which is how they secured one of their kills. And they also did a great job of knowing when to retreat back to site, when to play their angles, and not to get too greedy, which is something that you talked about, how they got too greedy, they overextended. We can even talk about Raymond. If they were droned out, that could have been a different story, but just their ability to wait there patiently, not overextend, not rotate back at the wrong time, that's the type of play that makes a difference in a round. And when they aim to play for time, and Agony doesn't have the ability, like we saw last time on Trophy, to push their way through and deny all those comfortable abilities just to stand still, that's where you start to see a big shift in the way these teams play.
I think the mental shift has to come through at some point. Shinigami bled a lot of rounds at the end of map 1, already tying the amount of rounds they've won on the defense. 2 to their name, the same 2 they garnered on Clubhouse. That's all they should necessarily need if they're an attacker favorite team, which they seem to act like they are. That was what it was last week as well on Friday. I want to believe Shinigami just need one more round to basically guarantee this map. But the problem lies in the fact that we don't know how Agony plays the defense here. We know how they played Clubhouse, not well, but we do not know how Villa is for them. And Villa is a map of danger. It's a map of, I would say, possibilities, dreams and hopes here, Biggs. And Agony definitely needs their dreams and hopes. The problem is the fact that they have yet to clear out the roam game. Kenji gets a lot of intel off on their teammate. Live ping goes through, and they've placed a camera up in that top corner, and that has made a lot. Or it's not even placed. It's the default camera that's not been cleared, and that allows for maybe the possibility of having the nitro cell be detonated and Kenji collecting their first kill. But it's not going to happen. Agony have managed to find not just 1, but 2, and well, to be frank, that cut Shinigami to a very cutthroat position with 2 players down and much less to work with.
We also see the Ayana of GP2 stepping into the danger zone that was already previously established, as the C4 won't be able to net any kills. It was detonated. Second Nitro to come out. That one will be successful from Fate, but Volk is going to be able to find their second on the round, finding Kenji as Shinigami. Once again on Trophy from a completely different angle. Volk with 3. Looking for 4 on the round. They've just been able to completely isolate it. That's Diffuser down. It's not going to be the 4K. Instead, Taro on the Hibana to find that final kill. Scott, I don't know what is going on with Trophy, but they aren't able to isolate any push that comes out from Agony.
One of the things we mentioned last week on Friday, I say we, me and Stick mentioned last week on Friday, was Shinigami on the defense was probably the most needlessly aggressive team on the roam that we've seen here in CCL. They love to extend, which is good, especially in a map like Villa and Clubhouse, but they're needlessly aggressive. They greed. They're so, I want this kill, I want this kill. There's different levels of play for the roam game. 1, you roam and you gather intel and then you step back to site. 2, you roam, you get a kill, you trade out for 1. 3, you roam, you get a kill, you step back to site, and now you're positive for the next engagement on site. Shinigami, though, just roam and die, because they let the attacking team cut the angle off to retreat back to site, meaning that even if Shinigami wanted to step back to site and retreat for that roam play, that's much smarter of a decision, they wouldn't be able to, because they let the attacking team cut their approach back to site off completely. Talking about the roam game down on the first floor, Kenji Meister, guess what the cut is there? The astronomy window. Guess what Agony have been liking to use on that second floor? They like to push the master bedroom side. They like to apply pressure from that window. We saw their Thatcher play it previously as show. And we saw a really funny point of them missing an EMP, but how many times is Shinigami going to let this happen? Not just against Agony, but against any squadron. They have to make the adjustments, and it has yet to happen.
This is the final round that they are going to have the opportunity to do so. It's normally a 4-2 split favoring the defenders. They have the players on site. They have the pulse of Kenji Meister, and it's just a matter of if they are properly able to hold down. The memo push was actually the kryptonite of Shinigami previously. So we need to see that they are holding together. They have a firm and solid iron grip on this site, and they're not going to give it up. They're not going to force themselves to play the retake, because to be quite frank, a retake on Kitchen and Dining, well, that does feel very reminiscent of very early Siege, like the operators we have. It is just not nearly reminiscent of what you should be seeing. You aren't able to retake Kitchen because of all the favoring angles the attackers have.
Now playing back into Kitchen and Dining, and we saw how Agony played this last time, and it looks like they're applying pressure in Memo for now. JJ working towards Red Stairs, and Classical Hall, sorry, not Classical Hall, sorry, Skylight Hall is kind of the dangerous spot to work through. It's a 4-on-5 with Shinigami losing the first. Raymond will be able to spray down the Gemini replicator. It's at least a semblance of denial of that intel, but I don't know. Fate's holding a close corner. Could spray down one. Does so. J-Tree falls. Not paying attention. Not clearing your corners. That's got to be turned to. They'll find another level of impact. Does Fate with a second. And while Kenji managed to find another one of their own, it's seemingly carry for Shinigami with only 2 players to do so. Quick spray down attempted by Raymond. Watching over towards China Door. But only GP2 is left standing. 2 nades in the pockets. They're going to try and spray over to corner. Player no longer lying in wait, and Kenji will get that through the soft wall, finding the last kill, and it's a headshot to do so. Mostly blind, might I add, as well. Did not really see any outline of them there. And we have a game on our hands, Bix. 3-3 tie.
These teams really showing they both have the capabilities on the attacking and defensive end. But with the size of which, we know that Shinigami has a lot more aggressive plays on the attacking side, and they also really play a lot more unified, where they have a collective goal. Where on defense, it seems like they're given a task, and it's not a well-oiled machine just yet. They're still working out those different kinks, and it's early in the season. I think that's what we can come to expect. And this is actually something that you and Stick got to experience last week. This is a... No, this wasn't even the same team, because Agony wasn't the team that we saw play last week. What's going on with these living room and library holds? Wait, what?
I don't know, man.
I think I'm missing something. I think I'm missing something, man.
This is such a hard objective to play, though. You have to extend to the second floor. You have to. The problem is just plain and simple the fact that Agony are picking an objective that's very hard to fight for. Shinigami can just take control of the second floor, and Agony can't send everybody up there, because if they do that, Shinigami are a pretty good team about trying to drone out, following with their entries, and gathering the intel to figure out where's the best approach from, and Shinigami is just going to dive out of sight. And Agony don't have enough floorboard clear. They don't have a buck. They don't have a sledge. That's not a capable option in the defense. They just have to Mossberg the floor, and I'm noticing a distinct lack of that, except from Sho. And while Taro does have the shorty, it's going to take too much ammo and too much time to open up the floorboard as much as necessary, and you can already see Shinigami doing a great job of droning, gathering the intel, and now they can choose to pounce on sight.
Not to mention the fact all the utility has actually not been distributed. We see 2 reinforcements waiting in the pool. It's going to be Vogue to find the first kill, not able to be droned out all the way in. But a second swing, it's actually going to be Raymond to fall, and Fate has to pick up the slack. Elsewhere on the map to take out the Jaeger GP2, and a triple kill for Vogue. How are they able to just completely manipulate the site? All from second floor. We talked about how you need to hold it down, and it's not like this hold is extremely hard. This is essentially planes and games with the way Shinigami has just had absolute tunnel vision.
Shot still trying to ring out. Nothing ringing true, though. With Shinigami really in a bad spot with only 2 players. What could have been is really the only talking point we can see, because Agony are just winning these gunfights, just taking such a control over this, and now it's just a matter of trying to contend early. Battle with a nice shot, trying to even the odds. So 2 versus 3 now, but Sho puts a nitro cell to end the kind of thought process there for Fate, and you'll see a final blow there on the Sho to finish things off even further. Agony pick up the first round of the second half, and it's on an objective, let's be honest, probably shouldn't have been won, but a good job by them to keep Shinigami off, and there's a good chance we could see map 3 if they can keep up at that pace.
It's really a matter of how do you set yourself up early on in the round. For a site like that where you're looking at library, you have to make sure you don't lose that vertical aspect. So you're making your stance on the second floor strong and to the point. You're saying, well, this is where we're going to be staying, and if you don't drone us out, we're going to take full advantage of that. And it did come down to a highlight play. If we saw that Vogue was the opening kill, rather than getting those opening 3 kills, it's a completely different game, to be quite frank with you, Scott. What I want to see now from this Planes and Games defense is that exact same mentality from Agony, except I want to see the extension. I don't want them to lose that. I want them to keep the extension with that iron grip. They are not giving up this. We're going to hold it until a certain amount of time. I normally say the minute mark is where you want to be rotating back or have an idea of rotating back. But if you're not rotating back, you know that you're playing your life and you're going towards every single aspect of that.
I'm actually liking the much swifter dismantling of this map by Agony here in this round, and a lot of that's really off the back of they know what they want to do. The only thing we're seeing a little bit slow is their actual defensive structure over on the statuary side as they start to clear out and give themselves any semblance of sightlines and control. But Shinigami looking to approach from master bedroom. Kenji has control over towards the shelf window and can apply pressure to landing. That actually cuts the retreat away from Agony, but they have to be aware of that. And that means coordinating with your team about when they're starting to peruse their options on site, or at least in map towards the statuary side. This northern extension can be just dismantled, shut down. No chance of success as long as Shinigami can stay alive, which is obviously the problem with Vok on the prowl, finding Raymond, and actually able to force the Agony defense to take that step back. Because you have the player watching the cut. You have the player trying to isolate, and unfortunately, you have no one that can gun down the side of Agony, and not only is it the player of Vok that can find kills, it's also Sho with the SMG-11.
I don't understand that. If I'm being quite frank here, I don't understand why you aren't pushing to have a refrag. Where if you were to take Battle Out right now, there's nobody there to watch for that refrag. You have someone, you need to have them when you're clearing out that secondary side to know exactly where to look. C4 is going to be detonated, nobody even in close proximity. But they've done their job. A minute 30, and 2 of those players are going to be able to rotate Dakas. I believe GP2 was just a 3rd player on that side. A double kill for the Thunderbird, and finally, Kenji is going to get that refrag. But the damage has been done, and I don't think this will be recovery for Shinigami.
It's going to be hard to come back from this, but Shinigami is a team that can do so. They'll manage to walk past the drone hole inside Classical Hall without really being seen, but them retreating back to step up on top of Dask at 90 may have given them a sight line. Nade ready to be tossed from below. They'll toss it to kind of relegate and create some space, but it looks like the side of Agony have kind of taken a step back from that perimeter. Now they'll use their pocket hard breach, the hands of TJ, to create a little bit more of an option to give themselves the sight line on sight. Kenji looks like they'll try to dive there. TJ will work from bus to try to take control over towards Landy Door to step inside of the plane's room. Now they have control over towards Vault. They're going to actually get hit by the Kona station. Kenji now with more HP to work with, and it's Teejing instead to find the kill, and Teejing to find the last one as well. That's a 3K to their name. That round was an impossibility, and Agony let it happen. It's so weird, Binks. I don't know where I even am in this game, because I don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. I can't get into their mindset. Agony played the hardest objective on this map. They win it in a very lopsided affair, and then Shinigami could have just done the exact same thing they did in this round to win that last round, and they lose, but they just gun up and win. I don't know why Shinigami is so hit or miss.
I think once they have their sights turned towards the actual objective, that's where they have a lot more freedom to play around. But when they're clearing out something a lot more tertiary, where they're used to it just being given to them, where they have to maybe deal with one roam, where they don't deal with that heavy extension. So once they cleared that out, they were able to maneuver around sights. But Teejing, I think they had a really big highlight there where they were actually able to manipulate the site. Perhaps those 0 cameras were off screen and we didn't see what role they were playing and the information they were feeding. But Shinigami just pulled that one out of nowhere. I would have never put them on being able to hold it. And a replica set up from Agony is a cause for concern, because Shinigami just proved that they know how to attack it. And if they have a lot of this memory of how to clear out these roamers, if they actually play together on this roam clear, this could spell absolute destruction for Agony.
Destruction's a pretty good way to phrase it. Shinigami looking like they're going to funnel in from the master bedroom side. A very quick approach, not as methodical as what we've seen them do before. Maybe it's because they've already droned out, but I mean, Vok's already being a hefty thorn in their side. That's 2 drones taken out and a player. Teejing's had lopped clean off their shoulders, and Vok is back to their same old, same old. That's 12 kills to their name. And Teejing just says, nice shot, I guess. Interesting. They're respecting that, but notice how many drones they're feeding to the player of Vok. I get it. You need the intel, but you can bait it around a corner. You don't have to essentially leave the drone's fate to die. Speaking of fate, Fate will manage to knock off Vok off the board, giving them their 6th death here in this map. And we're down in a 4 versus 4, but Shinigami have bled their 0. That means they bled that pocket hard breach, which means Battle is the most important person they can possibly keep alive, and they're one of their top deaths on their squadron.
Yeah, this is really scary. Worrisome for Agony, because they don't have anyone on that designated roam. They have people on the main stairs, so the roam is still a possibility. But it doesn't look like Shinigami is going to be too worried about that, because that's not the kind of push that Agony typically goes for. They hold down the site, and that could be their downfall. We saw it on the hatch inside of Arsenal, that kitchen hatch. And we are seeing it possibly on this vault wall if they try to deny it, or if they put too much utility on an extension. They have problems with managing that side, and that's what we're starting to see slowly unravel by Shinigami, especially with this being their second time attacking the site.
Trying to work from Classical Hall, though. Gemini replicate down. No shield in place there for him, but J-Tree is going to go ahead and utilize the floorboards and that wall they left soft. That's the same place we saw Shinigami doing the defense, and we're not really seeing a lot of play from below. They're not using those nades, like I mentioned, would be such a great strategy for them, for both sides. Neither side really doing so, and I feel like that's been such a problem for both sides to give themselves a much easier job. Thankfully, Kenji is going to start to maybe apply pressure over towards Study. Going to work from the veranda itself. Show's holding corner, though, and Battle will come out on top over Taro. Leads me to believe that they've started to gain some control over towards Classical, but J-Tree is holding quite close. Right next to Vault Door. GP2 on top of main stairs. Their position now given away, but Show seemingly still unknown by the side of Shinigami. So they could be a price to pay if they try to step in. Raymond unfortunately falls to GP2, but Battle gets a nice refrag back, trading things evenly into J-Tree, and now finally the position of Show is given away, and they'll tag Kenji Meister, but they get DB&O'd instead. Now GP2 is the last player left standing. Plenty of time here to go for the defusal, and Battle will start to initiate, but their position's given away. Fate with a great spray down, and that's why the LMGE is so popular. Just hold out, hold that left click, and watch the sight lines to cover your planting player right next door.
Shinigami really picking up speed with that round. We saw that once they had the information, got into position. I really liked that rotate. I think it was Kenji on the sledge last round as well. I really like that they rotated. They didn't say, well, I guess we're just going to go for a single-sided horizontal push. They took the time, they rotated around to Study, and that did a phenomenal job of making it so Agony didn't have any comfortable positions. It's been 3 rounds, though, possibly more, and Agony opting to go back down to Library. I'm really interested to see if Shinigami is going to be well aware of the tomfoolery that was held previously, and even if they're going to just opt to leave the top floor alone, because it is still very possible to push this site with neglecting that top floor.
Neglect is a great way to phrase it. I don't like this objective, just to be frank. Because guess what? If Shinigami go in from the north, if they start to work towards Pantry, they take control of Skylight Hall, and then they start to apply pressure through Mud. Well, yes, they do have a somewhat limited idea. There's 2 hard walls that can be breached quite easily. There's no denial from Agony, and they're playing entirely from above. And well, yes, there is the ability to watch those sight lines, smoke canisters, as well as just tossing nades when you swing around the corner. Every little bit of that keeps it much more controllable. And that's the thing for Shinigami. They're falling right into the trap card of Agony, and I think they need to adjust their game plan off of that. Now they're going to start to do what I think they should do. Just sprint in. Nobody's on site. Show's the only person on the first floor, and they're in Hall right now. They're going to toss a Toxic Babe. Teaching is going to go for the plant. They're literally mere inches away from each other. It's a Nitro on the wall finally being detonated. Show will finish the job, and now Fate has to pick up the pieces. Does find J-Tree. Kenji takes out Svok, but Show is still prowling around with the SMG-11, misses the opportune moment under Raymond. A DB&O player for the side of Shinigami truly makes this a 2-on-2, as Battle has not yet been picked up. Player watching for landing behind. You'll see a player from above. Taro watching the diffuser. There's no chance for Shinigami to pick this one up unscathed. They'll have to counterplay.
Swinging around, they're going to be spotted out from up above. They're going to be able to recover, defuse. Good job by Kenji to just maneuver around those bullets. Second attempt at the plant. That's going to force Taro to rotate down into the bathroom, but that is very audible. We talked about the attackers making noise, but so the defenders. GP2 to find one, refragged by Raymond. Now down to a 2v1. Make that a 1v1. A spray from the castle will win it out, and somehow this quaternary bomb site is proving to be Agony's shining glimmer of hope.
I don't like this. You are reinforcing bad habits, Shinigami. You are reinforcing bad habits. Like, I tell you, don't do this, and you let them do it, and it's not just a matter of letting them do it. Let them have it. If they're going to play a bad strategy, let them play a bad strategy, right? The issue is you're falling victim to that bad strategy. You are reinforcing a bad habit, and that's what we cannot be allowed to see. Shinigami bleeding that round away, despite them having a nice idea to counteract it, sprinting into main door and going for plants. Show had a great idea, places the nitrocell on wall, and catches them off guard. Plant near a hard wall. Plant near a hard wall. Plant in corner of library. I get it's harder to redefend, but you had full control over site. Play it to your own strengths. Play it to your advantage. Would have been a much easier round for you, especially considering the speed at which you got inside the map and had control. Now switching things up, they'll go over to the tertiary bomb site of choice. Maybe not for them, actually. I'll rephrase that, as we've seen the library now twice. But we're seeing the kitchen and dining objective. Well, we actually saw Shinigami do a pretty good job here previously, but Agony still came out on top.
I think that this would be secondary bombs. This would actually be quaternary for them.
We can't bring up what it is for Agony. Like, it's just Agony right now. I mean that in both the team's name and, like, the sense of dread that I feel having to watch Agony pull something out of nowhere. And it's like a magic trick for me right now. I don't know how they're doing this, but the fact that Shinigami is letting it hurts to see.
I think we're in the same boat there. Shinigami are not going for a really guns-ho approach that we saw Agony do for this kitchen dining approach. They'll wait for those drones, as that's the most logical thing to do. They've been caught out so many times on this bedroom side. And even when we saw that Zofia swinging around that window, aggressively just knifing it before it was open, that's where we saw Vogue pounce previously. So whatever position they're in right now, I'm interested to see if Vogue has that same tomfoolery, same tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah, so the reason why you don't sit still when you push the second floor is because there's a pulse 9 times out of 10, and there's a ton of nitro cells. Unfortunately for the side of Agony, they've already expended both the nitro cells they brought, which is a slim amount of nitro cells in comparison to what you typically would see. But when they're effective, they're effective. T-Jing quite low, Raymond dead, no Gemini replicator, and the nade spam essentially stifled at the very least, as Kenji Meister's the only player left with that destructive utility in the pocket. T-Jing trying to watch towards Mud, and Sho is completely unaware that there is a drone hole there. Map awareness, the most important aspect, and barely T-Jing not getting it. Maybe it's because they didn't have the Mark 14 that they used in that first half to shoot the feet through the drone hole like we talked about. Looks like a quick dive, and T-Jing falls victim to the UMP in hand. If T-Jing hadn't taken damage from the initial nitro cell, they would have gotten that kill because the UMP just does no damage.
I'm having a very difficult time trying to fathom the ideology to put through there when you have different angles and different time to work with. You can go up above and clear that castle later. You had a lot of options. Sprays through the floor now. It's going to be Fate trying to find the feet of Volk. They'll escape around. There is no Kona stations this round to heal them up, so they're going to be stuck. Also, no explosives besides the impacts of GP2. So we're not going to see that same aggressive manner from Agony. They're quite stuck right now, and they are going to have to fall victim to all of this vertical remodeling on the side of Shinigami with that sledge of Kenji Meister. With 35 seconds to go, they've done a phenomenal job delaying time, not to mention the fact that those mute jammers are still doing their job, meaning that it's going to be so much harder for any sort of advance onto this kitchen site.
Kill Garner, J-Tree finds it. Kenji Meister, though, able to frag back the L85. Battle and Kenji, the only 2 players left standing, and GP2 ensures it's just battle. Nice frag to guarantee it, and Vok will use that Mark 14 that the Shinigami side were so fond of previously, and they'll send things off to another round win. That's match point now for Agony. 1 round away from guaranteeing a map 3. The toe stubber gun, Taro was pointing out what we saw Shinigami point out there in the first half. Well, looks like a map 3 could be a possibility. We're heading to Plains and Games. Shinigami has done a good job on this objective, so maybe the weak point for Agony, it could be OT still. But this is looking down the wrong end of a barrel.
If you look at all the sides that Agony has played, this is the 3rd time that we actually see them go towards Plains and Games. We need to see variation. The Bandit could be an indicator of that, but with the way we've seen them actually go for clears, Thatcher isn't on the board, but T-Jing taking the Twitch. Also an indicator from the first map where that Twitch was taken and used possibly to get rid of ADSs. So I'm looking to see, and I think this will be a clear indicator if that's actually how Shinigami was able to isolate the site. Furthermore, it does not look that different. It's the same 2 reinforcements, and if I'm right, they'll still have that 1 in their pocket that does not get used. I'm rather concerned, to be honest, Scott, because if Shinigami even attacks us the exact same way, all they have to look out for is the pulse, or that there is an operator switch where Volk is on the pulse, possibly down below, but if GP2 is the one that goes for those aggressive peaks.
The roam game is probably the most important aspect right now for Agony. And not for the reason you would think picking up first picks are important here, but I think it's for the reason that for Agony, if they lose the roam, they may lose this round because Shinigami are pretty strong about being able to step onto an objective and do it pretty quickly, and Agony are slow to set themselves up on these objectives, and we're seeing that here as the Gemini Replicator does nothing but gather intel in GP2, and that the Surrogate was up. Unfortunately, it gets shot first, so they couldn't actually send the Replicator through the Surrogate and reset it, forcing them now to eventually use either a smoke or a flash to do so, but KG's going to wait for the prime opportunity, step through main hall, and try to take control of this front entrance, but well, I don't think there's anyone actually holding close except for Vok, who's not holding stairs, which is the expected direction of approach, and instead is hanging out inside main entrance towards hall. He managed to find one, was not expecting T-Jing, though, to be not far behind him, and that will be an even trade gained, and that roam game for Agony cut short, but a very nice frag to take things up for them. They remove Fate, one of the more important players, but thanks, I think I might argue that Vok going 14-8 may be even more important than him.
I'd have to agree with that. We saw that Vok has been a mainstay of getting early picks and just not being able to deny it. And Twitch denying the wall now. Second nade to come out, show being lit up in the process. Only one nade remaining from Raymond, and they're going to start to cook it out. Whether or not this is going to land doesn't look like they are in the right position, but it does add that insecurity for Agony. Swinging up, they have main stairs control. They're looking for Classical Hall, as every single player on the side of Agony does not have a safe spot to sit. They are waiting for the inevitable push, and I gotta say, I do not envy them.
Classical Hall is a good place to come from, so is Study, and that's kind of what we're seeing Shinigami try to go for. They're down to no nades. They bled them in an unfortunate place, but T-Jing is like the basic lifeline for the side of Shinigami. They're able to find a nice frag on over to GP2, and the toe stubber that they called it previously, the Mark 14, no longer on the board for them. Taro holding close. Talked about this previously. Mira is quite strong if you want to place it at that place because you can kind of watch Classical Hallway. But those floorboards are a major contending point, and though we see Kenji Meister fall, Battle knows where Taro lies and will get the retrade instead. T-Jing swings on into sight, takes out J-Tree. Show from behind bar, though, is being a menace to the side of Shinigami. We're down to a one-on-one SMG-11 versus the rifle in the hands of Raymond. They'll swing on over through the soft wall on the aviation side, trying to find any bit of tag damage down. 13 seconds left. Time is running out. They're nowhere near this defusal. This is a gun game in the hands of Raymond, who has to force. They'll step through the soft wall. 4 seconds left. Running and gunning. They will not find the shot until they can. Show gives away the peak of a lifetime. The leg, the knee, everything goes down, and they'll spray through the bar. Somehow Shinigami scraped that one away, and we're going into OT.
Wide to the right. You hear them sprinting. They're on that shift key. You have the capabilities.
The audio bug is only for us. It's only for production, not for you. Why did you not hear the player gunning towards you?
Why? Oh my goodness, that really, really hurts. We're going to have a pause, a much needed one as we go spiraling towards overtime. Lots of things for both of these teams to be thinking about right now. I think the main thing that I'm looking for from Shinigami is their ability to keep on pinching, where we saw more of a tag team effort when they were clearing out that site. I spray, you go spray. I spray, you go spray. And it worked, but more in a trade fashion where you don't want to let things come down to that. And then the final player, the sprays had come out, but there's just a breakdown of communication, which allowed for the side of Agony to have a fighting chance. Of course, we did see that the Ayana won that out with that ARX, but they were shifting, they were running, there was no time. I think the Mossberg would have been a better choice in that case.
Maybe. I liked Taro's idea, and you find one. But if Battle had lost that fight, had lost the battle, but won the war, and Battle had lost that fight on the repeat to Taro, if Taro wasn't caught reloading or just didn't re-aim there, that would have been an entirely different round, as Agony would have just guaranteed one. Taro was in Taro's position, it was that important, and unfortunately, that's also why you see that wall kind of be left soft instead of the other way around, because you can get a better angle from back at bar, and while it does make back at bar a harder place to hold on to, especially if it is a study or main hall-oriented push, you can just rotate on over the other side of billiards and catch them off guard. There's ways to adjust your defensive structure, and we didn't see that. One of the things we didn't see from either side is on the defense, once you notice where they're coming from, we didn't see any transition of utility. We did not see them try to translate their defensive structure the opposing direction. They didn't pick up anything. They didn't move the boot jammers to an opposing side. They changed nothing. And while a lot of the times it didn't matter, that round right there would have mattered if they had just changed their positioning and reoriented their defensive structure to adjust to the main haul and towards study. Would never would have mattered. Agony would have taken that.
100%. Going towards overtime, there's a few key notes that I want to make on both of these teams, just to make sure that they are aware of it. On the side of Shinigami, on their defensive end, it is okay to give up the roam. You don't need to stay out. You're allowed to go back to site. The doors are open for you. Your team will welcome you with open arms and the rifle that you'll be able to provide. On the side of Agony on defense, I almost don't want this site to work out for them. I'm rooting for them. They have the chance. They fought so hard to get towards the third map. But this is such a bad habit, as you previously mentioned. If they aren't able to properly read in, or Shinigami properly goes for that push in the site, and they don't go in that C4 that honestly shifted the tide of that round that was placed onto library wall that blew the planting 0 to smithereens, then that's where you see a big shift in the tide. And Shinigami has the control. They have the ability to really monopolize this site.
Is this a north-oriented push? Are they going to the north? They're applying pressure from classical hall window, but it does look like they're trying to apply pressure on the second floor from the north, not using study and main hall like they tried to do previously. This is not a bad way to approach this, but the problem still lies in the fact that Shinigami, they have the pressure on the second floor, but how do you get past this point when you've struggled against the Agony defense, and there is a player that you have no idea where they lie in? You just haven't droned enough yet, because you're only in the first 60 seconds of the round, and while you may have cleared at least a level of safety, there's still danger that you don't know. Almost knowing nothing is more dangerous than knowing everything in a lot of ways, and that's what we're seeing right now. Show with a nitro, catches Raymond, and how many times are we going to see that exact same thing on that exact same wall? That's Diffuser down. Shinigami bleeding yet another player as fate falls to the Mark 14 in Vox's hand. And that may just be all she wrote, because Shinigami have a hill to climb, and it's looking more like a mountain.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
Now not able to get the hatch open. We see that Battle to rotate back out to make sure they grab diffuser. A smoke grenade on the side of the Twitch also being wasted on that wall. At least they have this reconciliation. They are able to take out the roaming Rooney. Refragged, however. I'm in a little bit of awe. There's 3 drones on the table. You guys should not be watching your teammate. Thank you. Stay on the drones, even if they're not useful. They can provide you with at least a little bit of audio. With a minute to go, Agony has basically effectively stopped them from even looking at this first floor site, because they've been on the second floor this entire time.
I don't get how Shinigami can go through and be so solid on so many maps on the attack and then just look awful right now. It's not even that Agony is outplaying them. It doesn't look that way. Shinigami are not setting up their drones to watch flanks. If your teammate dies, guess what? They're now on drone duty. They're now on cam duty. Their job is to sit on that drone, not watch T-Jing play the game right now. Their job is to watch these camps. Finally, for the first time, I think, in this map, I'm seeing the rest of Shinigami start to watch these drones and keep an eye on the flank. That is the most important aspect right now, especially in a clutch situation. Yeah, we could have seen all of it been saved if the rest of Shinigami had just been doing that the entire time. They'll step through a surrogate, though. T-Jing tries to swing onto sight, but Taro shuts it down from above, and that's that sightline control and the failure of the side of Shinigami to clear the second floor, coming back to bite them in the rear. An easy round for Agony. Just flat, plain and simple. And Shinigami will thankfully be able to switch things back over to the defense, a side they were pretty darn good at in comparison, I guess, to maybe Clubhouse's approach. They won't have to see that objective down on the first floor ever again by Agony, as they won't be able to repeat it if we actually manage to get to a third round of OT.
I'm really concerned for Shinigami. On this defensive end, they cannot overextend. They need to play for the information, which one they have not been doing. We've seen Kenji on the Mozzie, but how often have we actually seen them using there are drones on the Mozzie side. They might be just using it for denial. And sure, you can use Mozzie for that, but that's not that. Then just only take the mute. Then you don't need the Mozzie. There's better operators to be bringing to the table. You can take the Bandit for the extra coverage on the wall for all I care. But what is essential for Shinigami right now, you either hold sight or you go for your extension. There's no in between. That in between is only gonna hurt you. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is the characteristic for Shinigami right now. Agony has been doing a phenomenal job of splitting sights.
It almost feels like everything that Shinigami brought to the table has just been festering. Like, leaving something out in the sun and expecting it to still be perfect and pristine. And meanwhile, when you go back out there, your lunch is now rotten, spoiled, disgusting. That's what Shinigami has looked like on the attack. It almost feels like they are setting themselves up correctly. I mean, we see them droning. We see them placing these drones not in bad spots. They're not using it, though. They're letting it rot out there. The drone just sits on the ground and go, oh, girl, I'm dead. I can't move the drone now. What do I do from here? I don't know. Just watch my teammate and hope they do something. Cover your teammate. They cannot solo in these positions. You're leaving them to be isolated with no single help or coverage. Thankfully, though, Kenji Meister on the Shinigami side not just finds one, not just finds two, but finds three. A possibility for a fourth, but GP2 will not allow it as they finally shut down Kenji Meister, who has been just absolutely decapitating the Agony assault, leaving just two players alive. It's a Finka and a Habana. 2 nades made 1 and 3 flashes left remaining.
Minute 43. They have the capability. They can push. They have the utility on the side of Agony. But do they have the information creeping up? Look behind you, Habana. You're going to have to worry about the Jaeger Raymond sitting right there. They'll find the headshot, leaving it all left up to GP2. And it looks like this 7-7 matchup going all the way to our final round is looking more and more like a possibility as all the utility, 3 smoke canisters, 1 nitro cell, and of course all of those Kona stations that Fate could easily rotate around to heal all the way up, but they don't even have to, as GP2 is on the other side of the map, but they have a minute. Let's not forget that they have the time.
GP2 is going to play this one quite slow, but Shinigami in the favor. I'm more worried about the next round. Agony defensively have done pretty good on Tiny. Do they play that as their defensive round, or do they step back up to the second floor? GP2 tries to swing on out, approaches towards landing, and pretty good coverage there by Shinigami. They'll take a step back. They don't want to bleed away the players, even though they do have the surplus. No need to hemorrhage the man count down. And T-Jing will do what they're expected to do. Clutch up, win the kill, take the gunfight in their favor. They'll DBNO the last remaining player, and not allow for them to use that adrenal surge to pick themselves back up. It is Max OT on map 2. Name something that goes together more than Shinigami and OT. I'll wait. Oh, wait, there's nothing. Shinigami have reached this point now twice with me. Agony on the defense. I'm expecting them to win. But Shinigami, they pulled off miracles before. Let's see if they can do it on Plains of Games.
That's the real question here. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, Scott. It doesn't fall down to Agony. I think that they can do a competent job, but this is the most wind attacking site for Shinigami. The ball's in their court. I don't know how else to put it. The ball is in their court. It's up to them to take the shot. We can make a baseball reference. They can hit it out of the Parker. This will be the third strike. They are out. This is their third and final opportunity to win this game. After this, they're going to their third map, and who knows what's going to happen there? Who knows what's going to happen to the mental of Shinigami if we go to that third map? Because I don't know. These wacky sites, these wacky setups, and this extension now from Agony, 3-4 players off a site as we start kicking things off. I don't know what to expect. We don't see the same shotgun holes. It seems like Agony's throwing something together, but we don't know if it's going to work.
I'm more worried about the battle of attrition we've been witnessing this entire time. We've seen the devolution of Shinigami. Let's be a gentle reminder for those of you out there. Shinigami, last time we saw this objective for their attack, and Agony brought it to the table. It came down to the one-on-one. Required a major clutch from Raymond to keep the game together and alive. And it was extremely tough for Agony to hold on to that point, but they did a pretty good job of holding those angles. Shell being one of the most important players. Sorry, no, Tara being one of the most important players. Unfortunately, losing the second fight to Battle, and that was basically the beginning of the end. But I think the bigger factor right now is the fact that Shinigami's kind of hesitation, their maybe fear when it comes to this master bedroom side could be their undoing, as that will indeed be the case. Not only does Vok gather the intel necessary with the heartbeat sensor, with the cardiac sensor, they allow for Show to run on over, toss their own nitro cell, and then go for the kill. Now a possibility of their own. Vok will pre-place it. You could have just looked again, Vok, and checked to be sure. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for Shinigami, Kenji will escape with their life, but they've lost Raymond with that sledge, which cuts down a lot of the possibilities of these soft wall holes. Now it relies on Kenji to play down the first floor, up main stairs, and apply pressure to landing, and there was a close chance there for Agony to find yet another kill.
They got the bandit trick. I really like this pick from Tara because there's not enough utility left on the board. No Sophia's impacts remaining. Only the Twitch drone that could allow them to actually get into this vault wall. Things are tense. This is what it all comes down to. This final bit, this accumulation of all the collective knowledge obtained by each of these teams. Both feeding this information, all of this. He knows where almost every single player is. The spray coming out. They're not able to stop this Twitch drone. And it does look like Shinigami's going to be forced to just bleed right on through these two main doors towards the objective. They could either look to go for long, but Voke is there watching, Fate to find the opening pick onto Show, and they are giving themselves a living, breathing chance, but will it be enough? With 44 seconds, a big Kale coming out from Voke. They are doing their job. They're collecting information, but is it enough?
Shinigami doing everything they can. 33 seconds on the clock, and they've got to collect for a lot now as GB2 buries the grave even deeper, and Vok and Taro pounce effectively, ending this one off. Agony's defense steadfast. And this map, max OT, 13 rounds to even get to that point, and or 12 rounds, I guess, to get to that point, and then 15 total to finish things off. I want to say impressed by Agony, but I'm more depressed by Shinigami's inability to play the defense as strong as they did previously. I don't know. Their first half was fine. It's okay. They did defense okay. Maybe a little better than before, but their attack wasn't there. Their attack wasn't there. Their attack was lackluster, and to be fair, for Agony, their defense was good. Their defense was much better on that map. It was a much closer scenario, and they forced map 3 to go into fruition. But the battle of attrition is there, Binks. There's still more to go, and the mental has to be so drained for both of these sides.
I have to wonder what's next. I think Oregon's our next map.
I believe so, yes.
I think Oregon is our next map, so luckily, I don't have to worry about my brain cells in comparison to which site we're going to see, as all 4 of those sites are arguably viable to some sense. So that will be a really interesting take. But we have one more map, as we just mentioned, Oregon. 5-minute break. Do not go anywhere, because this entire series all comes down to this one final map. CCL will be right back.
It's always whatever anyway. Every time we try to talk high, I'm out of here any day. It's always something, no, we never ever change. It's just like that. I get the shivers whenever I'm thinking about you. Just wanna leave and live without you. Be on my own again. I get the shivers whenever you go out of line, yeah. I feel it creeping down my spine, yeah. Wanna be alone again. coming back, these shivers are every day. Whoa, I say it's over, I get out of bed and leave, yeah. Just like that, I got the shivers. Whenever I would think about you, now that I left, I live without you. I'm on my own again. I got the shivers. Whenever you went out of line, yeah. Now it's like everything is fine, yeah. 'Cause now I'm alone again. Maybe I could be a lucky charm. Bet your heart on me and hold me in your arms. I could be a lucky charm. So baby, double down. So baby, double down. I could be a lucky charm. Maybe I could be a lucky charm. Bet your heart on me and hold me in your arms. I could be a lucky charm. So baby, double down. So baby, double down. I could be a lucky charm. I could be a lucky charm. I could be a lucky charm.
Cause you won't look after my wounds. I suppose you will never regret it. I should throw myself out from the roof. Cause you fucking love it when I feel it. Cause you won't look after my wounds. I suppose you will never regret it. I should throw myself out from the roof. Cause you fucking love it when I feel it. Cause you won't look after my wounds. I suppose you will never regret it. I should throw myself out from the roof. Cause you fucking love it when I fade. Cause you won't look after my wounds. I suppose you will never regret it. I should throw myself out from the roof. Cause you fucking love it when I fade.
When the walls are breaking down, when we're falling with our head on the ground, do you feel it's reaching now? Can you hear the curtains fall? It is certain, it's emerging. We've been waiting for the shadows to rise. On the surface, we are fearless. When we hear it coming, the word is when the heart is filled with doubt, when the light is covered by clouds, can you hear the sirens call? Can you feel the curtains fall? It is certain, it's emerging. We've been waiting for the shadows to rise. On the surface, we are fearless. When we hear it coming, the word is
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to CCL. And hey, it's not Infernosis anymore. I'm joined now by Kinder or Harrison. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great. Just jumped in here last second, caught at least a little bit of the last match, so I'm not completely out of the loop, but I will let you give a proper recap of these past two maps.
Well, if we go and look all the way back to what feels like forever ago onto Clubhouse, we saw that on the side of Shinigami, they came out really, really strong within the first half, having a 5-1 split. But then we saw a really big turn of events where Agony was the one that caught up. So now as we go hurtling towards Oregon, we also have to consider Villa, where it was the exact same back and forward. Both teams were able to achieve a 3-3 split, really focusing and working off the flaws of the other. So as we go into Oregon, we could see a very big change in bans, but finally Thatcher is going to be the first mainstay ban that's back on the board as he escaped previously on Villa. But these teams need to make sure that they have solid foundation and that they are able to work in tandem rather than against each other.
Yeah, I know that on the last map of Villa, we did not see a Thatcher ban come out at all. I know y'all talked extensively about kind of his uselessness for as far as going for a ban on the map of Villa. But on Oregon, I mean, in terms of hard walls that you have to open, I think this is only beaten out by Clubhouse. There are so many here, and it's very difficult to trick or work around a Thatcher that's playing So you definitely need to have him banned out. Not surprised to see the Flores gone either. He can take out a lot of bandit batteries, but also just a lot of general utility, a lot of Melusi Banshees that you might see, other sorts of traps or cameras or barbed wire that can make pushing some of these very suffocating sites even more suffocating. So getting him out of the way is going to make that defense a whole lot stronger. The Kaid ban going to come out to match that Thatcher ban in tandem, and the Valkyrie ban, not super surprised about. Very versatile cameras. Even if they can no longer go outside, they can still be a pain in the rear inside. So not at all a very surprising ban.
Yeah, looking just like the default that we've seen previously. Interesting to note that Mira does escape the ban phase, and notably, basement's the only site I can see Mira being even a little bit viable on. Even to that point, it's really easy to counter, and Fate has been able to make crazy things work throughout these two series. Whether or not that continues here is massively up for speculation, but the current setup would dictate that they are going to be going for more of a hold towards Freezer. And also, I really cannot stress enough that I want to see that they are going for that hold inside of Electrical if they do go for the reinforcement. Cade isn't on the board, but these mirror windows are not set up to make a difference, a long stay difference in the round. They're there for a temporary advantage, and it's just a matter of how exactly Fate's going to set up.
5 seconds left.
Looks like a pretty standard hold downstairs so far. They are getting that freezer hatch for some extended play. Looks like Shinigami here on their defense. Going to try to get a decent roam and a lot of aggressive play. We see that very standard horizontal angle that can be held all the way from inside of closet. And the mirror window also on freezer, so the player can play right next to that bomb chassis and peek around, but also have that cover from the laundry hamper closet for the assist as well. That other mirror window, yeah, definitely going to go straight onto that E-box wall. Launching into construction, one of the most typical places to push. We'll see if Agony fall right into their welcoming arms. As we start, it looks like GP2 going for that drone above, making sure to watch their flanks before they get in, and Zofia actually already going for this top floor clear. They want to make sure the map is completely cleared and solid, so they don't have to worry about any roamers collapsing late game. And it looks like they just might have some people to run into before too much longer.
For all of our viewers, probably getting a little bit of anxiety, to say the least, as Volk is really playing with danger on that beam. We've seen that gravity has not been Agony's friend whatsoever throughout this current matchup. And I think that is just a regular mainstay. And I don't know if this is just on my end. Are we moving? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm frozen in vMix. So there we go. We're back.
Well, we're back. Well, that's all that really matters. We're back, and hey, look, nothing's happened. We have seen that GP2 has done a phenomenal job. With a minute 42, they've been able to push up to a substantial amount of backstairs and just hold the angle. Meanwhile, Taro on the Habana once again clears out inside of security. This is a really weird play, and I like what Agony is doing so far. They've been able to monopolize things, but not all these hatches are open. The clear-cut push for Agony is not yet situated and not yet set in stone, giving them a lot of freedom. But it comes down to how well Shinigami is going to rotate around their angles. It's up to them to dictate what is a viable route and play within that. Because both these teams get really centered around stopping a certain push, which leaves massive holes.
Yeah, and we see this construction hold right now, almost uncontested. Finally, some players pushing into construction to cut off that rotate. A double kill, GP2 and Show, with Show downed in return, but I would take that trade any day of the week. It's a 1 versus 5. All of a sudden, it's on Fate to turn the tides, knock Fate in his favor. I don't think it's going to happen, though. He's completely cut off from inside of supply. He'll manage to grab one with that Vector. A second one. What a beautiful flick from Fate. My goodness gracious, but the diffuser gets planted. It's a 1 versus 3. They line up for just a second. Fate right now, stringing these bullets together like string beans. He's making some really, really great plays out of almost nothing. He's got a very bad situation, but Taro will be picked up. He might get the swing right here, grabs at least one. I think he knows the other player's over there behind the shelf, but he's going to back off. He doesn't have a whole lot of time. Only 25 seconds left on the board. He still has to deal with both J-Tree and Show. They're swinging around each other in the most intense game of hide-and-go-seek I've ever seen in my life. Misses the swing on both of them. Half the time left until he has to defuse or counter-defuse, and Show shuts him down.
I know we've all heard of the Kiss Me, I'm Irish. But have you ever heard of the Peek Me, I'm Spanish? Because I feel like that's what we start to see with Mira. The Spaniard operator, everyone's going to peek her. That was essentially 4 kills, because they did get the down, but they were picked back up, so we can call it 3.5 maybe for that Mira. But all kills that were just given away from Agony. They didn't have to be in those blatantly obvious positions. They didn't have to push for the kill. They made that so much closer than it had to be. Shinigami now forced to reattempt downstairs, and notably a good change in their lineup. They're not going to take the mirrors. It did not work in their favor. But Agony doesn't often go for the same push over and over again. They might go for something a little bit different. They could go for another blue push, or they'll clear above, as you can expect for a basement. But they use their scopes, and I think that's a really pivotal point. That if you are going to be pushing for that back site, and you don't have someone on your own end, I don't like that hole. And maybe and hopefully you can actually give me a bit of reasoning. Why would you ever make a hole within that pillar room where you have such a long line of sight that hurts what seems like the defenders more?
Are you talking about the hole that was going into supply or into E-box?
Into pillar.
From inside of supply, yeah. So
Yes.
the logic with that is definitely to try to hold that top stairwell. You've got that very long line of sight, so when Agony comes down that back stairwell, as they did, there was a bit of a contestation in a gunfight. The problem is that Shinigami got picked off of it so very quickly. Not only that, but Agony were able to completely bust open that soft wall and just rain absolute hell down onto the defenders inside of sight. So like you said, it really did not work well for them at all, trying to run that double line of sight there. I didn't actually catch if they decided to do it again this round. I wouldn't be surprised if they just completely reinforced off that wall and tried to play off it a bit more conservatively, because they had a lot of rotation holes last round, really tried to help themselves be very versatile, but ultimately I think a lot of those led to their downfall, as Shinigami were just able to completely rout them, shut off their roamers, and cut them off from sight.
2 minutes to go. Exact same picture perfect hold. But Tijing, to be able to find the twitch, that's a really big pick. That FAMAS is a absolute powerhouse of a rifle. Not to mention the fact that it is once again a split push, causing all these players on Shinigami to have to constantly check what side is this push coming from. Keeping them guessing is probably one of the best things they could possibly do. But there's no denying that opening kill onto the stairs has really shaken Agony. And the same wall that I criticized earlier on has proved to be a really big guiding light for Shinigami.
Absolutely. They've turned the tide so far in terms of finding kills, but they're going to have to find a couple more than that if they want this round to go in their favor. The player pushing down Freezer right now. The long angle's there from Tijing. He might just manage to grab his second on this round. They round the corner, but it's the player and Freezer falling out. Taro takes quite a bit of damage. He's in here by himself. Now, the problem with the split push, you don't have a lot of friends to help you, but you don't need them because Taro's going to help, or Show's going to help from a different rotation. Taro with a double kill from inside of Freezer. He's got that adrenal surge to buff him back up a couple of HP points, and suddenly Shinigami's early lead is falling even further. It's all on Tijing. He's going to have to pull an even more major clutch than was almost pulled by his teammate of Fate last round. He's trapped in Laundry Closet as the last 4 members of Agony are collapsing onto him. He'll manage to grab one inside of Freezer, but he's going to have to swing supply before. That is the diffuser, though, in Freezer. I don't think he has that intel. Goes for the slow swing, but the air jab knocks him back. The LMG's there. You're not winning that. Pre-fires for days. Show says, yo, for show, dead. And that's the second round in Agony's favor.
It was a really strong initial hold from Shinigami, but just the ability for Agony to rotate from side to side to side, really, I think it made Shinigami dizzy. Show, as you mentioned there, spraying with the LMG. They also had the very daunting task. They cleared out bottom of Laundry, got rid of that Shuria gate early on the round, and that forced Tijing to have to watch that Laundry side constantly. And I think that added pressure of thinking, oh, are they coming from Freezer? Are they coming from Laundry? Oh no, they're definitely coming from Big Tower Stairs. Blue 2, I think it's a matter of Shinigami needing to know where to cut their losses and where to focus their assets within their operatives, where to point their guns. Because if you spread yourself too thin, the moment you lose one, you start to lose everyone. And in a very astonishing domino effect from that previous round, we saw Agony just slowly pick up pace within each and every single one of their kills.
Absolutely. Domino effect is the best way to describe it. We saw, just members falling in rapid succession. It was a great split push from Agony. Even though they lost the opening pick, they were able to just completely cut off, once again, using those rotation holes, those peak holes, like the one in Freezer that Taro used against the defenders. The defenders had too many angles to watch with all those self-made openings, and as a result, they were quickly taken down and caught off and confused, and it quickly went from a 4 versus 5 to a 2 versus 4 in the favor of Agony, and they used that to net themselves the victory. But changing it up a little bit, we're going to see Shinigami go to the top floor. Basement didn't work for the first 2 tries. Third time's not going to be the charm right now. They're going to try for a completely different site, and we'll see if Agony has any sort of similar success in attacking onto the very top floor of Oregon.
I have to admit, I like this hold from Shinigami so far. It looks like they understand. They understand that the entirety of the hole inside of Attic, that entire set, they can't control it. So Raymond waiting at the back, hopefully just gonna peer up. That shield can be really powerful, but they have to be mindful of the nade. The moment you get two people there, a quick flash, especially with the sledge, that is 2 sets of nades. I don't think they have enough ADSs to block 4 projectiles. So they're gonna have to be really, really careful and show rotating around to the second angle, which is the window. This is just spelling absolute disaster. And when? That's the question now. When do the players of the Shinigami say, all right, this attic is not ours, we're giving it to them, and we're backing off?
Absolutely. You can already see Raymond starting to fall off a little bit as some of those ADSs start to get burned. Teejing, though, will be the first to find one onto GP2. He was air jabbed, but that air jab did not stop him from getting back up, taking one down and making his own self-made rotate, catching Show on the flank. Some great game sense right there. But Sock also has some. He's going to fall off and try to find this roaming Aruni down beneath. He might be able to catch her from behind, but he doesn't quite have the intel on where she is. Meanwhile, back in sight, Raymond goes down, but Kinji's there to trade it back out onto J-Tree. Another one for Fate as Taro goes down, and quickly Agony is in some agonizing pain right now. It's a 1 versus 4. Oh, how the tables have turned. All on Svak right now, trying to push up these white stairs. The player's holding the quick rotate, but Svak has him. He's got even faster hands. He'll grab at least 1 for his troubles, but in a 1 versus 3, I don't see him getting out of this.
Very limited options with 50 seconds to go. Svak just waiting. We know that they're good for their frags. We saw them go absolutely ham in the previous round, but when they have all of these eyes focused on them, he'll be able to collect a second one onto Dijing. 2 remaining defenders, both of the SAS operators. They'll hold in a very well and quite tight duo peek as soon as the Maverick peers their head out to the SMG-11 will spray up. And that's Shinigami to find their first round here on Oregon, and they needed that because they cannot go into this half. They can't be fighting such an uphill battle as they need to either snag out this 3-3 split or win these next 3 rounds to get them that 4-2. There's no option to give the attackers such a blaring advantage.
Yeah, and I'll say a 3-3 split for these teams that are very back and forth. I don't think that's spelling doom for either team. Generally, Oregon, much more defender-sided of a map. Like I talked about earlier, very suffocating holds on a lot of these positions, very well-known. But because they are well-known, sometimes that gives the attackers sort of a favor to win. Once these sites kind of become really figured out and really standardized, the attackers know exactly how to play around them. So it's on the defense to kind of adapt and almost sort of a reversal of roles. And speaking of adapting, we're seeing some interesting new operators come to the lineup for this basement hold. I don't know if we've seen an Echo before down here. I could be wrong on that. We certainly haven't seen the Lord himself, Tachanka, come out. Raymond has yet to find a kill so far for this round, but he doesn't necessarily need to get kills with Tachanka. Those Shermika fire grenade launchers will do plenty to stall out the attackers. Very interested to see his use in this round.
I do think Tachanka brings a different level of denial, where you did have Meister's LMG, which I think that's where Raymond's trying to pick things up. We also have the bulletproof cam that has been a mainstay within their defensive hold downstairs. Oh, and welcome back to the sound glitch, ladies and gentlemen. Who does not love to hear it? Man, this is like beautiful white noise. I'm going to start putting this on every time I go to bed because it's so well done by Ubisoft. Got to tip my hat for that one. This is really aggressive, though. Shinigami has been known to either go for just absolute Hail Mary extensions or go really, really conservative. And this time it's going to be the Aruni of Teejing to be rotated all the way upstairs, possibly assisted by the Echo Yokai. So this is where we're looking for the difference maker. We're seeing the extension, and this is what we want denied from Shinigami. Any sort of second floor hatches, meeting presence, get rid of it.
Speaking of getting rid of things, though, Svak's going to fall to that. As aforementioned, FAMAS, a very powerful weapon. And he's done pretty well in the roam so far, gotten at least 1, maybe 2 opening picks. But this time he'll actually be on the reverse side of that. He is the opening death for Shinigami. That puts them in a bit of a negative situation, but at the very least, he was able to stall, get a little bit of damage off onto Taro. It's going to take the Finka a couple of adrenal surges to heal that back up. But since he was not able to take out that Hibana, of course, not only will her gun still be on the board, but her utility to take out specifically this freezer hatch from inside of security. Svak now pushing down, hoping to net some more kills. He's watching through these holes. We've seen them be so deadly before for Agony pushing onto the site. And it looks like, once again, a bit of a split take here. But, oh, Fate, he catches on to it. He's able to grab Svak and Raymond also deep inside of Freezer might be able to grab this second one. A great pickup from Fate. Another one to follow from Kinji. Some of this Agony attack, I'd say it's falling apart, but Sho's trying to piece it back together. He takes down Kinji, shuts down the Frag Master, and we're back in a 3v3.
3v2 now. It's Raymond on the Dechonk will be able to pick up one, quickly refrag as they were unaware of the other attacker pushing in from Freezer. Fate and Battle stuck as the remaining two going against the Finka boosted Show and GP2, two LMGs, but the SMGs are coming out on top. Thus far, GP2 has a big uphill battle, but with 36 seconds, they're going to be able to play with it. But no, there's Das Fate, and finally Shinigami to hold the basement. That's 2-2 now.
Yeah, I think the adaptation from Shinigami was huge there. I think Fate reading onto the Freezer play, I mean, that's exactly how Agony pushed the last time they went on to basement. If Shinigami hadn't read into that, I would have been extremely disappointed. Fate almost whiffed those shots, but in the end, he got it, helped shut that down. They were able to continue to use that, I believe that whole in supply looking towards Pillar onto the back stairs really, really well to shut down that push a little bit, kind of stall it out. It was a very even man count, so it was by no means any sort of blowout victory, but Shinigami finally grabbed the basement in a 2-0. I like their adaptation. I dislike, though, that we're going into a potential rehost right here. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. And on the bright side, I think it gives us a bit of extra time to recap what's happened so far in this game.
Well, rehost has been confirmed. You're right. It gives us a really welcome time to give analysis or a good time to reflect. So we'll give the analysis when we get back. In the meantime, you guys get to sit through a very quick little break as we get this rehost all ironed out. So don't go anywhere. CCL will be right back.
I'm gonna be the one for another one. Hey you. Maybe then you'll know that I was never one. I don't wanna see you. I don't wanna fear you tonight. You don't wanna know me. You just wanna make sure you're right. I'm gonna be the one for another one. Maybe then you'll know that I was never one. I'm gonna be the one for another one. I don't wanna feel you tonight. Got me. Got me. Can I hear you? Got me. Got me. Can I hear you? You used to stop this world from spinning.
Timer said 2 minutes, but we did promise that analysis, so we are going to be giving you that analysis as we jump right back into the game. Well, analysis will also be cut short as we jump right on in. So we got 15 seconds to break things down. Essentially, Shinigami has picked it up in their previous 2 rounds, and they've done a phenomenal job of being able to just really hold on to each of these sites, whether it be through unexpected angles or just an absolutely berserk roam.
Yeah, Shinigami, though, finally bringing it back. They've got a bit of momentum in their pocket right now. As you said, a very nice roam that's worked out mostly for them in these last 2 rounds, but beyond the roam, they've also just kind of gotten it better down how to hold. They've started to read Agony's attack so far. I have to say, I hope that you can start reading an attack after you've played the same site 3 times over. But Shinigami, yes, they adapted. They did just that. And because of that, we're now going to the tertiary site of kitchen dining. And I have to say, I don't know the exact statistics on this bomb site. As you guys said in the last map, I believe all 4 bomb sites of Oregon can and usually are to some extent played. I feel like I usually see more kitchen meeting now, but perhaps that's just me.
No, I definitely agree with that. I've seen a lot more kitchen meeting because you have the ability to go for that second floor extension, whereas this site, it's almost completely one from the long angles. This is one of the few sites in Rainbow Six Siege where Cali could actually be one of the most viable operators you see. And with the extension that Shinigami is actually going for, it seems as if they're mirroring what would often be done for a meeting hold.
Yeah, they've got a lot of upstairs play going on, being aided and abetted by this castle. Usually you see a lot more
Is this
castles.
going to be a rush?
Oh no.
I think we're going to see a rush
that.
play. An absolute berserk rush. They're going to be flooding right on in using the Osa shield, but kills exploding out. They're able to find 1, make it 2, as 3 to 4. An absolutely explosive round here from Agony. Plant going down. They're in a safe position. Looking from above will be the Tachanka with the Shumika launcher. Not able to find it on the way down though. But there's Kenji Meister to find 1. Refrag by Taro. Second one to go up to bat is going to be Volk. But no, they find the double kill regardless. How are these kills working? The Lions staying alive with the DMR and the rush from Agony playing dividends.
What a phenomenal round. I was about to burst onto a very long tangent probably, so I'm very glad that you mentioned the rush. I have never seen that before. We were just talking about Shinigami's extensive upstairs roam, and Agony said, well, yeah, let's let them do that, and we'll just completely ignore it and push onto the site. And despite, a valiant effort from Shinigami in trying to bring it back, they flooded the operators back. They got the call very quickly that it was a rush. They did some damage. It was a valiant effort from Shinigami, but Agony just absolutely obliterating them. The speed of light, they got that diffuser down. Loved the use of the Osa shield. Not much more to say, just fun rush, make a brain go burr.
Sorry, I'm still buffering. Just give me 2 seconds. Still buffering. Okay, I can joke all about that, but I can't criticize it if it did manage to work. I can question it, but not criticize it. But I have to be honest. I like this. I actually really like this hold that we saw last time from Shinigami on this second floor. If they do manage to hold a proper crossfire, the last time we saw it was the 2 SAS operators of both Mute and Smoke. Battle and Fate, once again, I think it was them last time as well. The only pivotal point is how well are they going to hold off Attic? When do you let things go? And that's what Shinigami constantly has trouble with.
Yeah, and Attic might very well prove to be a problem. We're already seeing this big tower push and a pre-fire to go ahead and open up that window, cut off that rotation. It might not seem like a lot, but that Zofia right there just halved the rotation in sight. So trying to rotate between Attic and Kid's bedroom just got that much more difficult. But I would like to point out we are seeing a bit of a different approach. Despite the same kind of push coming out from the attackers in general, we're seeing some different operators. I don't believe Zero was here the last time that Agony attacked the top floor. And the Zofia is certainly new. They had a sledge last time with frag grenades, so trying to help burn those ADSs. But this time they'll just have the Zofia. She can burn those concussion grenade launchers to get past the ADSs, open up the wall with an impact, burst the shield with an impact, and be a bit faster probably about taking out that Attic player should that push come to shove.
I want to highlight Kenji all the way down here in the basement. He's been droned out by Agony. But now it's just a matter of how long can this Jaeger just maneuver around. They found a way out, which means they're going to delay even more time from Agony. but Show's opting to just let the Jaeger be. The bygones be bygones in this case. They're going to send all their utility to get rid of the shield. But quite convincingly, all the players of Shinigami have rotated away from that shield positioning. So it's just draining so much of their utility and their time. Shinigami doing a phenomenal job just eliminating everything that Agony had to use against their defense.
Bomb located by attack.
Yeah, and we saw a great rotate from T-Jing here, but you have to know if the defenders are falling off of such a pivotal point like Attic so quickly, there's, especially with the hatch open, something fishy's got to be going on beneath. Nobody died in that engagement, but Kenji and J-Tree will both grab one, though Kenji's on the receiving end as well. It's an even man count right now, but losing that Hibana, if you haven't gotten the walls perfectly open, you see that she has some unexploded X-Kairos pellets on that master wall, so she was able to get the rotate into sight, but not that extra line of sight that the attackers can play off of in a post-plant situation. Regardless, though, J-Tree on a sliver of HP, able to slip inside right next to Foosball in default. He's getting the diffuser down completely unbeknownst to the defenders, and sure enough, they're just going to keep falling in spades right now. Das Fate will be able to take out Svask, but he's not able to do much else. He's trapped inside of Kid's bedroom right now with the SMG-11 in hand. We've seen him work some pretty incredible magic before, but I'm not sure if the clutch is in his favor right now.
Finding a really clean headshot onto J-Tree. They still have 2 more to go when the odds are stacked against them. Spring out their Show to find the pick. I think that push for the attackers, although really stalled out from time, they still used their utility. They knew exactly what was clear, and they pounced on that. As soon as they had the control from the 0 inside of Master Bedroom, they could keep pushing, use that to their advantage, and then when push came to shove, there was nothing left that Shinigami could do on that final defending round to really maneuver around. Those cross angles that I previously mentioned were not viable because they were being covered by Agony. They had every single bit of pressure, and I have to highlight that trust on the teammate. I think it was the 0 of J-Tree going for the plant and just completely sticking it. You have to admire that, and they trusted their team was even as smoke came running through White Stairs wall, they still stuck to it, and the kill came out favoring the side of Agony, and the plant was successful.
Yeah, I think building off of that, I'd like to talk about what I've seen so far. Now, granted, I've only really been on this last map of the game, so I can't speak for these teams holistically. This is also my first time having casted for either team, I do believe. But it seems to me like Shinigami is a team that is winning mostly off of individual performance so far. A lot of really big roams coming out, a lot of players recognizing something wrong and adapting to change it individually. Meanwhile, for Agony, and this could potentially be because Agony's been on the attack so far. Attack, you usually have to push more as a team. It's a bit more difficult in that regard. But Agony so far on the attack, we saw the 0 run in. Agony was able to net a kill. It was traded back out. But again, like you said, 0 trusting his teammates. J-Tree ran in, got the plant down, and then kills just come out in rapid succession because Agony are able to collapse onto the site that was left open. Games room not being protected at all, and they were able to really work well together as a team to cover the planter and pick up a lot of very quick consecutive kills. So we'll see if that teamwork carries over the defense. We are on the top floor to start for Agony. Let's see if Shinigami can change their luck a little bit on this attacking half.
A split push so far. I like that Raymond and Kenji are working together with this push. Very reminiscent of the exact same thing we saw Agony do with their attempt to more isolate that Attic side. That was on the first attack, which I don't believe was successful for Agony. It was only the second one that worked out. And this is another thing that I really admire from Agony. Their extensions, they know when to commit, and they've done a phenomenal job of really holding it. And that's exactly what we see from Show, just trying to maneuver around all these bullets. And they've done a phenomenal job where they're out of armory unbeknownst to Shinigami. Flashbangs also being cooked out, everything you could possibly imagine, but then even more. The kill from Show onto Battle, there goes your hard breach of Thermite. Probably the worst operator you could lose there.
Thermite, definitely not the man that you want to lose first, but the silver lining is that this wall so far has not been, this game wall into Master has not been reinforced over, so that's already open if the attackers can get to it in time. Svask, though, will manage to take down Raymond as well, so there go both your hard breachers. Fate, though, able to trade it back on a J-Tree, but he's quickly ended and felled by Terra with the SAS shotgun. But whoa, a swing from Kenji is the Show is able to take him back out after he walked in the site, but he won't be able to take down T-Jing. He's going to try to get a long angle right now on the man in Attic. He'll have to fall back out pretty quickly, expecting this rotate. He's not going to catch him in time, though. That's Svask rotating up White Stairs instead. They've got an Attic White Pincer right now. and they've got a couple of different doorways to have to watch. The Malusi Banshee giving away his position, though they actually get the trade, but because there was another member of Agony left alive, that is yet another Agony round in the books.
Rather convincing. I think Agony has a really strong foothold here on Oregon, and they're demonstrating that round to round just by their ability to, one, play the picks on that round. And I gotta highlight that castle. I've always been a really big fan of the extension into Armory. And we noticed that a lot of times in the previous two maps, there'd be instances where both of these teams just put all of their attention towards just really trying to find the pivotal point of an attack. So on Clubhouse, it was going for that kitchen hatch, and within that kitchen hatch, all the attention from Shinigami was just thrown on kitchen hatch, or Agony was just thrown onto kitchen hatch, and it took away from the other aspects of the attack where you'd be losing men to kitchen hatch, or just allowing it to take up all your attention. Right there, I think that was the castle play, where they wanted to clear out that castle, but they didn't realize that he was able to rotate right on around, unbeknownst to them, using a great use of the prone angle.
5 seconds left.
And now Agony will hope to repeat that success, maybe have some more extensions, as they go down to basement, which was really the bane of Shinigami's existence. They chose this objective for their first two back-to-back rounds, lost them both to Agony, and while it's no guarantee, absolutely no guarantee at all, that just because you can attack well onto a site that you can defend it well, I do believe that if you attack the site well, that means you have a pretty good understanding of how it works in general and how certain strategies play out on it, and so you're better able to respond to an attack. Speaking of which, Svak right now, completely reading this big tower push, sees the doorway open. I don't think he's been droned out yet. Ooh, he sees the highlight but looks away at the exact wrong time, and well, now he's been droned. He's gonna have to fall back as this all-out manhunt is about to collapse onto him in meeting hall. They get the yellow ping, but oh, Kinji almost losing his life. Svak 5 and 2 so far. Not the man you want to mess with, but apparently neither is J-Tree. He'll grab Fate. Svak grabs Kinji. And Shinigami right now, we're not even a minute into the round, and it's already looking like a bit of a lost cause.
Agony up to a really good start, refrag here from Tijing, but you also have to look at their drone economy. 6 drones left. They don't have too many left in their pockets. Among the 2 remaining attackers, they only have 2, as well as the possible Twitch drone on the table. So not the best position, but they have the information to work with. It's just a matter of if they can find it. The Twitch drone seems to have missed the Maverick swinging around. It will allow GP2 to have the jump onto their counterpart of Raymond. This leaves the remaining 2 of Tijing and Battle with very little information to go off of. And not to mention, a minute 33, it's not the most amount of time, but they have the utility.
Absolutely they do. Thermite, if he can get around from this gunfight, he just might be able to use those exothermics to look into basement. He will win that out. That might be Battle's first of the game. Not sure how many he had before the rehost. Twitch right now, baiting through Freezer. They, you know, you can try for a split push here and try to pull hairs and grab members off of each end, but it looks like the defenders are smartly just going to push themselves back into very similar locations where they can get the cross angles. I have to give it to Tijing, though, on opening up that mirror window, possibly giving him a better line of sight as he pushes down this Freezer.
Well, it looks like the line of sight is going to go the other way. J-Tree finding their pick, leaving it all left up to the lonesome Thermite of Battle. Rotating around, they're stuck inside a boiler room and pillar. Little do they know that the wall is also being reinforced on the side of blue. We don't know if there's a mute jammer. There's not. But it's clear that the players on the side of Agony are well aware of the Thermite's intentions. And with this toxic canister already being detonated, 35 seconds to go. There's still one more in their pocket. There's relatively little that Battle has and is able to accomplish. Swinging up, they're going to wait. Just wait things out, as that's their best alternative. Pushing up, the actual bomb being spotted out will give away that the lonesome player from Shinigami has made their way in, rotating around, trying to find the mirror, but it will be the cross angle that they run into and show to win it out with that Vector.
Yeah, in a 1v1 between the Vector and Thermite's primary, I think the Vector's going to win almost every single time, especially at that range. Not a lot that Battle could do there, but not a lot that his team could really do. They were picked off very early. The roam game, very oppressive. Even though Shinigami were able to spot out the Agony roamers, they couldn't really do much of anything about them at all. It was quickly down to a 4 versus 2, just very, very soon into the round. So not surprised that they were not able to win it out. A noble effort to try to get down onto site, but a great adaptation from Agony and pooling their last 3 members into crossfires and kind of more concise lines of sight. They still had those smoke canisters left as well to stall. They really had nothing to lose, and sure enough, they would go on to win. So a great round from Agony. They're on match point. Not only map point for Oregon, but match point for the entire best of 3 series that's gone on tonight. So a lot riding on the line right now, and it's all on Shinigami to change the tide.
We also have to look at the mental durability on the side of Shinigami. They almost lost the first map. It went almost all the way from an insane comeback from Agony. So they had that little bit of momentum to work with. Furthermore, on the second match, it went all the way. Shinigami had it within their reach. It was in their hands, but it just slipped away. So for Agony to constantly be able to push through time and time again, you can only imagine how tough it's been for every single player in Shinigami. And this is a BO3. We're approaching 3 hours. This is when it gets really, really tough, especially to constantly predict what your opponents are going to do, let alone focus on yourself.
We are interestingly seeing an Oryx on the board here. Not a bad option for the tertiary site, as he is able to jump up not only that hatch into attic, but also fall off through E-Box, jump up the E-Box hatch, come up security, freezer. So many different places that Oryx can utilize these hatches on this site for great flanks or for great rotates back onto site. But Svok will take down Teejing. That's the buck going down early. Das Fate is at least there to trade it back out. That was good positioning to at least have another attacker in the same vicinity as the buck that goes down, but that is a very, very big loss. They do have breaching charges on the Zofia to get that floor open, but otherwise not having that skeleton key is going to make the verticality much more difficult to play on this tertiary site.
They have the Echo drones in play. Those yokais are going to be spotted out by Kenji Meister, so smart spray up from the second floor. Really unlikely that they are able to land it. Unfortunate there. That's where you want to have someone else go in with the drone, try to spray down ping, and that's where the ping 2.0 system really shines. But this is, once again, it's not the same kitchen and dining. It's kitchen meeting. So it's a completely different type of rotation. So you can go and dedicate this utility into getting into dining, but at the end of the day, it's that same choke point that we see where that wall is reinforced. You have the cross angle from security, as well as those long angles established for meeting. So a really daunting task for Shinigami, and Agony has put themselves in a really good position going to this final minute.
Great positioning and great use of time right now. Shinigami, not a whole lot left. About a minute on the board and the vertical play. Actually, not even vertical play. Taro just walked upstairs. White stairs completely uncontested. He's fallen back down to this bathroom hallway. Might be able to catch the swing here from two players. Lights up battle with the, as Canadian would say, worst gun in the game. Battle will live to die another day and take out the yokai drone, but he's got to watch a swing from both ways right now if he wants to try to get this exothermic off.
It's smart. They have the angle set up. Battle still using the fact that they're concussed, just waiting it out. But there's a second huge kill from JP2. They've single-handedly now brought this down to a 4v2. Extremely unfavorable for Shinigami. They have their thermite lit up. Maverick's the one with diffuser. All they have to do is a strategic yokai blast in this round. This match is over. It's
even more close to being over as Raymond headshot by J-Tree. Oh, right now Battle doesn't even see the man behind him. Agony are going to take it, perhaps agonizing more so for their opponents, who won the first round, took it to the first map, took it to overtime in the second, and got completely blown out in the third. Only 2 defensive wins for Shinigami. Their mental obviously drained, and some great stamina, great gunplay, great strategizing from Agony to take this series.
Yeah, it was a really, really long one, but at the end of the day, we did see that Agony did pull out in front, especially within that last map of Oregon. I honestly think that when you come down to it and you look at each map, it's Agony slowly building up each of their momentum through each of them. Maybe that final map, they didn't have the biggest flashy plays as they did previously, but I think on Oregon, they had a really strong foundation, and at its core, they managed to play as one, and each of those kills were really joined and intertwined with the entire setup that had been made by that lineup of Agony.
Yeah, all in all, though, GG's to Agony. Great win there for Oregon. And I believe that does us in for the night. So once again, GG's to Agony. Congratulations, and a well-played game from both teams all around. If you did not catch the rest of the match, make sure you go back and check the VOD out later. I caught a bit of it myself. It was very, very entertaining. With that all having been said, I think this is where we sign off for the night.
It is. So we're going to be hitting you guys with a quick 5-minute break. And I think I have the schedule pulled up. But in a quick 5 minutes, possibly more, we're going to have our second matchup of the night coming up. So don't go anywhere. Once again, CCL will continue later on.